Many folks ain't never heard of me, so I'ma introduce myself by using some hyperboles. I am that voice that talks a ton, but no one chatters back. They rather act like bladders acting spaz on rappers. Matter of fact, that's so real, I can't say psych nah yet. Feelings that I caught made me feel that caution. Waiting for the day I get the silence I deserve. So I ain't talking oxen when I say I just wanna be heard. It seems like everywhere I go, everybody there trying to steal the show. So I'm here with my plan, I gotta let him hear who I am.
I wanna show you now's our time to do my best to make you say dang, cause I'm getting my way. It's my time to shine and it's okay.
Man, I'm finally getting this show, I can spit it raw. Zizzy, y'all, in case you didn't know me, let me tell you it's a rap. Like I'm sick of eating hoagies. They try to lock this top notch down on the low key and provoke me. I stick my tongue at them like Yoshi. I got to show people I can come up and swag. And when they feel my presence, they gon' back up like that. They see me now, they hear me very loudly, crystal clearly. Now they all jocking, pole jocking, trying to be near me. What is that? Now no one's ever speaking but me when I talk, cause when I talk it's off of DJ IG. Dag, yo, it's only me and my team that will come with more flavor than a bowl of ice cream. Since the verse is ending, I'ma thank you all for listening, taking time and witnessing. Now I'm finally glistening, feeling like I'm Christian. Well, that might not be the word. Beg your pardon, y'all. I just wanna be heard. It seems like everywhere I go, everybody there trying to steal the show. So I'm here with my plan, I gotta let him hear who I am.
I wanna show you now's our time to do my best to make you say dang, cause I'm getting my way. It's my time to shine and it's okay.
Martin made him say that, Malcolm made him say that, Bill Clinton, oh boy, yeah, he made him say dag. I mean, dag, do I gotta blast? Make some people mad just to grab me that precious glam like I'm Smeagol's hand? Nah, man, they ain't even right. And I won't test the road, cause I keep this next to my heart, it's like a stethoscope. If you ain't hear that, do not worry, you can rest assured. Google me or look me up with that Dewey Decimal, yeah. To be cherished and be loved is to be heard, to be seen and to be noticed and receive what you deserve. Put them high. No wait, cuz, see it ain't your turn. Psych, nah. DJ IG, we spittin' verse. And let that be my testimony. You just learned a lesson, homie. One that talks the talk and walks it is the one who gets the trophy. It's hard for me to step when they be stepping on me, but I ain't the only one. Yeah. It seems like everywhere I go, everybody there trying to steal the show. So I'm here with my plan, I gotta let him hear who I am.
I wanna show you now's our time to do my best to make you say dang, cause I'm getting my way. It's my time to shine and it's okay. Yeah.
Cleveland, Michigan. Not the place where you'd see the big names adorning the assembly lines, but where you'd see the big names hit the track as the series rolls into the Irish Hills for the very first time this year. We welcome you to coverage of the 6th race in the 2022 Four-Wide Racing Cup Series season, live from the virtual Michigan International Speedway, as we bring you all of it right here on MaxSpeedTV. So happy to have you along for us once again on a Wednesday night. We're alongside Francisco Bacchiao atop the Michigan International Speedway. My name is Kenneth Bueno. Francisco, it's been a topsy-turvy first segment of the season. We've had 5 different races, 4 different winners. We had a repeat one just 2 weeks ago at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We took 1 week off. The series decided to have a little bit of relaxation for a while, but it's time to get back to business at one of the largest tracks in the series schedule.
Happy to be here, Kenneth, as always. And these drivers, they had their spring break, but it's time to return into action. And we're going to be at a very fast racetrack here at Michigan with these next-gen cars. And this is probably one of the more interesting combinations we'll have throughout the season, because with the Gen 6, we never really saw the cars reach 200 miles per hour. But I think tonight we'll be able to do just that when these cars go off into turn 1. They could be reaching 200 or even just above that. So we'll see how the package works and, of course, how these drivers adapt to it throughout the race. So I think we're going to be in for something interesting, probably something different than what we're used to, but don't dismiss the fact that draft will still play a huge factor with these long straightaways.
And we've seen at these larger tracks already how big the draft plays into position and how you end up in a certain place at a certain time, how you can get some advantages going into the corner. Of course, Las Vegas showed us that. Auto Club did the same as well. And ever since we started the season at Daytona, it's been sort of a grapple on these next-gen cars, Francisco. A lot of drivers having questions about still how to manage this car in these situations, in these race scenarios where you're 3 wide, maybe D, 2 wide in a couple of places, in the middle of the corner trying to handle throttle. There's so many factors with this next-gen car that people are still learning, but I think you've now got to start to get a grasp of, because we're getting later into the season, and you got to get into your rhythm some way or another. First off, though, we'll take a look as to where we are in the virtual. We'll go overhead and go with our track map, with images, of course, provided to us by Google Earth. And Francisco, this is a track, when you look at it from a first glance, you say, hey, that looks like Auto Club, but it is wildly different. It is 2 miles, same length, and around the same banking as the track over in California, these 2 sister venues. But this one, pretty different. You're going to need a lot of tire saving also to be very fast and very successful here.
That's true, and this one was also the original version. Michigan International Speedway opened back in 1969, Auto Club back in 1997. So Michigan's had some time on it, and there's been many different winners, many different moments that have happened here at Michigan. But one thing that has always stayed true to the racetrack, it is speed. It is the Monza of NASCAR when it comes to unrestricted cars running at this racetrack. If you recall, Kenneth, back in the Gen 5 days in particular, they were reaching speeds upward of almost 220 miles per hour going into turn 1. Speed has always been in association with this racetrack since its repave, most notably back in 2012. And these cars here tonight, they're very different than what we're used to in the past. We touched a little bit of bases on that throughout the season, of course, with the lack of side force, the lower downforce package like we've seen in the past on a couple of times. We're going to see what that culminates here tonight, because, of course, they're going to be struggling for grip in the corners, but we also have to see what these new tires do as well. We know that we have the larger profile tires. That doesn't exactly help the grip on these race cars either. When you couple that with the lack of side force, you're going to have guys complaining for grip, trying to see what they can do and really back these corners up. I think, like I said, there's not much that we do know about this particular race because it is a unique racetrack, but based on the Auto Club race, you can kind of think about what you can see. The only differences I would probably note are the fact that this track is much smoother, definitely much faster, and the corners are banked more. So I think the lack of side force will show more so here than it will at a track like Auto Club.
And of course, you can take away a lot of things from that Auto Club race just a handful of weeks back, and we saw a lot of drivers in trouble over the first segment of that race with these next-gen cars. Hopefully, they've got a better handling tonight. We get to see a lot more racing instead of some drivers going around having some trouble out on the track. Speed has always been the name of the game here in Michigan, of course, ever since it was born in 1968, a track owned by Roger Penske, the captain, as they call him, one of the big names in motorsport. We saw IndyCar race here, CART back in the 90s, and of course NASCAR has been a staple here ever since. For a long time, continues to be a big staple of racing up here near the Great Lakes. Right now, though, drivers are standing on pit road just behind the iRacing official pace car, which means it is our time. And take a look at your starting grid, see exactly where every driver and your favorite driver will be lining up here tonight for the 6th race in this 2022 campaign. On the pole will be the 13, one of the lone Toyotas in this field. Craig Lownslugger lines up with a 38.926. We saw a lot of speed out of him at Richmond earlier this year. He's going to be looking to grab his first checkered flag of the season. Alongside Kyle Benson from Murray Beauty Motorsports returns to the series after a slight absence. He's going to be on the outside of that first row to the green flag.
Second row sees league owner Tyler Murray in that third spot, running a 39 flat. Right next to him, almost matching him, Brandon T. Banks in that 88.
Brandon T. Banks, one of the Championship 5 drivers from last season. Los Angeles' own Daniel Michel wasn't able to get one of the West Coast swing races along his hometown, but he starts 5th tonight here at Michigan. Lawson Peel, the winner from 2 weeks ago, looking to go 2 in a row and capture his 3rd on the year. He's been bright hot ever since the drop of the green flag at Daytona. He starts outside of that 3rd row in P6.
Adam Malashar, one of the first of the Stonks Motorsports crews to show up here in the 7th position, alongside somebody who occasionally makes an appearance here and does show some speed, Ryan Steenbacher's in the 19.
Lance Hill in the 38 for Stonks Motorsports, Lance Hill in the 38. He'll line up 9th right now on the starting grid, alongside Cody Kinsey in the 93, who will round out your top 10.
Eric Schaefer will be in the 11th position at 22. We'll see if he can do anything here today, with Christopher Bishop with a good qualifying up in 12th.
Good run for Christopher Bishop in qualifying. Same deal for Travis Anderson. Don't believe we've seen this name before in this series. In the 84, he'll line up 13th. Brian M. Smith, the first driver to not take time in qualifying out of the many here in this race. He lines up 14th. A little bit of work to do, but no doubt he's got speed.
AJ Green, another for Stonks Motorsports, in the 15th position, with Scott Healy, the Season 2 champion, in 16th.
There are a lot of big names around this part of the field, most notably Colin Forcer, one of the Championship 5 drivers last season, alongside Daytona winner Austin Reedy. He's been quick with these next-gen cars. We'll see what he can do tonight. Curtis Kelly will be 19. Tony Kivitt around out the top 20, and you'll look at everybody who goes all the way down to 28th, the final position here in tonight's full field from the virtual Michigan International Speedway. So it's a very beautiful day in sim, but most notably, Francisco, grip. That's going to be the biggest thing. You've already talked about it a little bit. Drivers are going to be wanting it. With the sunshine directly beaming on this hot asphalt, it is not going to get any easier over the first laps and even through the rest of this race.
We've heard guys talk about through the first couple races of this season, with this new tire, it takes a couple of more laps for the tire to sort of build up to temperature. So the first lap is no longer the same issue as it was with the last car. It's going to take 2, 3, 4 laps potentially for the temperatures to build up and not have to worry about potentially sliding them. The pace car left on the pit road. Craig Lownslugger's in control of the field as they come to the Geico's restart zone. The green flag is out. We're underway from the Irish Hills.
We are clean through lap number 1. Kyle Benson immediately ducked to the inside of Craig Lownslugger, and he takes the race lead. Presumably here, teammate Tyler Murray, bit loose there in the entrance of turn 1. We saw Daniel Micho also take his hand for 3rd. But there, 3 wide as we got a big crash there. Multiple drivers almost around near the front. But as it looks like we were going to keep it green for a majority, at least this first 2 or 3 laps, we already have our first caution. That is huge damage to one of the standout drivers in the first opening stint of this season, Curtis Kelly, involved in this one.
And Kenneth, I think we've touched bases on it through the first couple of races and in the pre-race today. I think we know exactly what may have transpired here going into turn one. We saw it happen with Tyler Murray up in the front, and I think it may have happened in front of Curtis Kelly, right in front of him. Yes, you'll see right there, actually, the 84, a rookie driver actually kind of turns down the racetrack into the way of Scott Healy, so it was actually not a driver getting loose. He was a little bit sideways, but he more so was turning down the racetrack. Probably did not anticipate the 64 being that high up, and they make contact around it, go in front of everybody.
You're right on board here with Curtis Kelly, who has been doing so well over the first 5 races, and it was contact right there. You see Anderson dive low. He slams into Scott Healy, and there's absolutely nothing really that Curtis can do. As the 76, Tony Kivitt, he also got involved in this incident. It looks like Scott Healy may have escaped despite some potential right front damage there in that Nike Chevrolet Camaro. You'll take another look at it as they came into turn one. 84 just boggles down, slams into the 64, then the 71. You see the 89, CJ Munier. That was a sailing car there. Not sure exactly who that was in what looked to be an Aflac looking car. You see them going around. There's Travis Anderson, another look at it. And it's just everybody really holding on, holding the brakes for what is the first incident here tonight as of lap number 2 out of the 125 scheduled for tonight's race. So already a mostly clean lap number 1, but then of course that incident there out of turn 2 brings us under yellow. So Kyle Benson with that quick dash to the inside takes the race lead, and I've been talking with Kyle Benson over the past week, of course. Talked to him about what his expectations were now that he was coming back. Of course, said that it was a little bit of a break, that he had been off of racing here with the 4 wide guys, but he is happy to be back. He is excited, and of course, more than ever, Francisco, looking for the win, and that was something that was a miss last season. Did not quite get to victory lane and could not get the success that he was hoping for. This season, though, could be the change. A very strong run at Daytona with his teammate Austin Reedy, and already tonight, very strong run at Michigan to take the lead away.
And, you know, sometimes it's a psychological thing, you know. Sometimes a driver needs a little bit of time off to get in the right state of mind, kind of calm things down, look at things in a different perspective, take a break, come back, come in with a new energy. And sometimes that's all you need to start having different performances, different outlook on your performances, and that could really do a driver justice. And perhaps that's what the 10 of Kyle Benson needed. Ran at Daytona, as you mentioned, hasn't really appeared since, and probably felt like he needed some space to kind of get away from things, and that now he's having a comeback, and at least in the first couple of laps in this race has made some good work of it. Started outside of the front row, was able to take the lead away going into turn 1 with the preferred outside line, and intriguing here, he's going to choose the inside for the restart after taking it on the outside, so we'll see how that works out for him as the field takes the 1 to green. But Kyle Benson, probably all he needed was some space, and right now, at least, it is showing like it has proved worthy.
And I talked with him about this next-gen car, how different it is from what used to be the Gen 6 era back in 4-wide competition, which really wasn't that long ago, only a couple of months back. We were racing with the Gen 6 cars, crowned the champion, and now that we've got this Gen 7 car on hand, Kyle Benson described it as a damn speedboat. That's what he said it was, with all the new features and how it handles over the track. Luckily for Benson, though, looks like he's got good handle on this next-gen car so far, especially here in Michigan. He's going to have his teammate right beside him, Tyler Murray, who almost about lost it out of turn 2. And by the time they were already wrecking further on behind. Just to note, 71 and Curtis Kelly did equip the faster pair, so he's got a good-looking Interstate Batteries Ford Mustang. He's got to keep it pretty, though, for the rest of the race. 120 laps, to be exact, as we're going to get ready to go back to green flag racing. So Benson will be on the front row. He'll be the leader once we go back to racing. The 13 of Slugger, who was our pole sitter tonight, he'll be on the outside. He's going to have help from the 14 of Adam Alashire, rocking the Mahindra paint scheme that just went to victory lane earlier last weekend at the Phoenix Raceway. In real life, courtesy of Chase Briscoe's run to the finish. Tyler Murray, again, inside of row 2. He'll have his teammate to assist. So 2 Chevrolets on the bottom, Toyota and Ford all the way to the top side. Pace car will make its way to the entrance of pit road softly, and Benson will have the discretion to bring us back to green. It was a crazy first 2 laps. We'll see if we can get some more green flag racing in. Benson on the gas, up and away. We're backing away from Michigan.
And a good start there for Benson. He was able to get clear well before turn 1 and actually pull about 2 car lengths ahead going through 1 and 2 now. Lonslugger had a little bit of help there from behind. But at 14, and Murray sideways. He gets into the 14. The 14 goes around. No one else involved. It looks as though we have one sideways there. The 42 of Bishop. He's able to keep it straight. No, he won't. He's going to come back up the track and get another car involved.
That's another big stack up there. The 42 of Bishop involved. But of course, most notably the 14 of Adam Alashar gets collected. I don't think there's too much damage here. It's like on the left side, probably the most, but it was contact there with Tyler Murray. And Murray had been kind of struggling with this race car with the first couple laps, especially when he get it up to speed. And that was not a good situation for either the 8 or the 14. Take a look at the replay here, going into turn 1. Of course, they're side by side, running for second. Benson with a good start just to clear everybody. And then Murray gets in the middle, 3 wide right there. Looks like Francisco just wadded the car to the right, wadded the car back to the left. Car just stepped out of line. And as soon as he was trying to catch it, it had traveled too far up the banking to not get into the 14. It's exactly what happens there. And the 14 of Alashar goes around.
And right there, you saw there was very little damage to his race car. He got nicked there right at the end of the left rear. But we'll ride on board with him now. You see, he's able to jump to the outside of Lonslugger. Being on the outside of somebody's, or actually not to the outside of the 8, excuse me, of Murray. And when you're in the middle of 3 wide, especially with this car, there's not that much grip you have with these cold tires, especially. You see, he's just trying to keep the car under him, but just has nothing there to really keep it straight. And you saw cars, even when they were slowing down, were having trouble keeping the car under control. You saw there Bishop most notably having trouble keeping his car under him, even as he was slowing down for the caution flag. We'll get a look here as to what happened. You see right there, he overcorrects it, and he comes up right into the path of the 81.
That is the 81 of Cody Ivy. So mentioned the Aflac-looking car that was almost involved in the first incident. Can confirm that is the 81. Cody Ivy, this is the second caution he's been either slightly involved in or fully involved in. At that point, unfortunately, couldn't do anything to get out of harm's way as Bishop had spun to the outside wall. There's a look at Bishop. There's a look at Alashar and Murray and a bunch of others that have also come down for service. Some of them just coming in for fuel, some of them for tires, but obviously the big note there is damage control. And for Murray and the 14, that's what they're going to have to do. Same deal with Bishop and everybody else that was involved. So more so, I think the same story here, Francisco, like what we saw at Auto Club. Just a lot of drivers struggling with the grip. I know Auto Club probably was a little bit cooler, maybe around the same temperature. It feels like this one has more direct sunshine over the track than what we saw over at Auto Club. Actually, we had a full fog cover at Auto Club, so never mind that. We didn't really have hot track temperatures, but still, the story remains the same. A lot of drivers having trouble, a lot of drivers getting loose, and when you're trying to manage yourself in a pack like this, as hard as they are racing, even early on tonight, it's just really hard to get a handle once it steps out. That's been the big case around these next-gen cars. You let it go sideways, you can't hang it out like the Gen 6. That car's going to spin before you know it.
And we've seen that be the case at almost every racetrack, but these guys also talk about it. They recognize the fact that there's no side force, but what does that actually mean? What does it truly indicate when you have no side force? The side force is what allows the car to kind of hang sideways through the corner and allow you to carry that speed. Without that side force, if the car steps even just a little bit of sideways, like you've heard maybe Joey Logano or some driver in the Real Life Cup Series talk about, if it steps sideways, it's close to impossible to correct it. That's why when we see guys make saves, it is just all the more remarkable that they were able to keep it under them. Most notably, I believe Kyle Larson made a huge save back at Las Vegas when he was battling for the lead of the race at one point. We saw Murray do it on lap 1. Wasn't able to do that there on the last restart. But going forward, it's going to be crucial for these guys to do so. You mentioned warmer track temperatures, and I think that warmer track temperatures will actually be favorable for the short run. It'll help the tires get some heat in them and hopefully limit any of these early restart problems. So hopefully that's going to take care of itself in due time, and if we get a long run, it might just play into it all the more, into leading into more long runs. That's the hope. We have to first get through the first 2 or 3 laps of a restart before we can start talking about a long run, and we'll see who the players end up being. Right now, you see Kyle Benson still in the lead of this race, has not had to do much to keep it. Craig Lonslugger, your pole sitter, still up in the front of the field, and the 78, that Monster Energy machine, has slowly been creeping up to the front. He's last season's winner. Keep an eye out for him.
Brian Smith started pretty deep in this field. The first driver to not take qualifying. He's one of the drivers to start within the top 15, but he's already up to 4th. Green flag back in the air once again at lap number 10 of 125. Kyle Benson immediately gets out of the gates quickly. He's got enough to clear the field and up back to turn 1. Here we are, 3 wide into turn 1. Smith to the very inside.
And he has the grip to make it work. He was able to warm up his tires enough. He's up to 2nd. You see through most of the field a lot of scattered cars, but looks as though maybe a little bit more temperatures this time, able to keep it underneath them for the most part for the first half lap.
Right on board with Smith, already cleared 2 week ago winner. Lawson Peel, last race's winner at Las Vegas Motor Speedways. He tries to fend off a charging Eric Schaefer, and it looks like Launslager's pulled the anchor ever since the start of this race. Set on the pole, had the fastest qualifying time, but race pace not looking so quick here for Launslager in the opening stages of this race. We'll see if he can pick things back up by the time we put more laps into these tires. But Launslager kind of struggling with this race car at the moment. So far, he's holding on for 5th.
And you see cars were getting sideways there to turn 1, but as the laps tick, it should make it a little bit easier for everyone to have grip. They're going through the corners. Brandon Smith is catching up to your race leader right now. He's trying to make a move to the inside, and he's going to hold it there. He's going to get to that left rear quarter panel of the 10 and try and pull him back. We're going to have a proper battle for the lead. This is going to invite that 10 car back, or excuse me, the Lawson Fuel Machine, the 12 in contact. Benson hard into the wall.
Benson into the outside safer barrier. They both hip-checked each other as they were aiming for turn 1. And the driver who had been successful to start, Kyle Benson, gets involved in our 3rd caution here from the virtual Michigan International Speedway. The bad luck strikes once more for the Teamer Designs Camaro. And it all started with a battle for the race lead. Who knew that a bit of contact there would create it all? But Francisco, you'll see it here as they came out of turn 4. And it began with this attempt at a pass. You see the 78 seems to be clean. Ducks the nose down low, finds the side draft. He's able to get close to the 10 without putting him into the outside wall. This is fine. This is when they're coming down the start-finish line right here. Smith goes down to the apron. He moves back up while Benson moves down low. And just the contact happens imminently. And Benson goes around holding on to the brakes. Luckily, it looks like nobody else was caught up in it. Everybody had enough time to slow down and clear the incident. But it was just that slight communication error, I think, Francisco, between Smith trying to work back up and Benson trying to side draft down low.
I think that's exactly the case. You're going to see right here from high above. Smith is going to go down to the apron after the side draft to try and cut this. And Benson's going to move down, and right there, Smith decides to come back up after a start-finish line. Benson did not anticipate that, and hard into the outside wall he goes. That is very, very reminiscent, Kenneth, to the crash that Brad Keselowski and Austin Dillon had here at the end of stage 2 last year.
Yeah, very reminiscent, very close. Albeit just trying to keep each other at bay. It's exactly what Benson was trying to do, just side draft the 78 and at least be even back to turn 1, not have Smith, at least not allowing him to get that advantage into the first corner, even though it looked like Smith was going to take the race lead away. So Benson with a beat-up Chevrolet Camaro, of course. No doubt he's going to come down pit road. We don't know if he's going to use the fast repair. We'll see if he does. We've seen a couple of drivers already do so in the first stage, and you just see the extent of the damage right there, Francisco. I mean, it is not easy to repair. It's going to take a while. So I think the fast repair may be in the cards, and you can see even the right side damage on Brian M. Smith. So it's not like Smith got away with this all clearly. He definitely does have a couple of crinkles there on the right front. We'll see if that affects the handling of his Camry tonight.
Yeah, I think Benson's going to have to use a fast repair if he wants to stay competitive through most of the night. The problem is he went very hard head-on into the outside wall, and that's really going to hurt the engine. I think you see right there, he indeed took the fast repair, so he has no safety assurance for the rest of this race. He's got his one clean race car from here on out to the end, and if it gets trashed, that's what he's got. So that's unfortunate for him. But I also have to peg the question, and I want you to answer this one, Kenneth, is it's lap 13. You've had 2 cautions, and you happen to have your first battle for the lead, and it ends in a wreck. What would probably make a driver race that aggressive on lap 13 of the race?
Just running for the win. I think overall also fact that if you can stay up front, if you're going to be as aggressive as possible, you will get points at halfway throughout this race. We didn't pose that point 2 weeks ago at Las Vegas, but in this 4 Wide Racing Cup Series, at halfway throughout these races, you do get points if you're in the top 5. So I think if you're Smith, if you're Kyle Benson, you're running as aggressively as possible, not only for the bragging rights to be up front, lead some laps, but also to get some points by the time you're there. And unfortunately, just got a little bit too aggressive there in the opening stage, and both Smith and Benson with damage. Benson getting the faster pair, Smith electing to stay out. So we'll double the field back up. We'll have the lights out on the iRacing official pace car. Of course, Smith will be your leader. Still a lot of questions as to how his car is going to be by the time we do go back into full-time race conditions. Lawson Peel was the winner just 2 weeks ago at Las Vegas. Going to look to make it a trifecta this season. Lawson Peel has been one of the best drivers here in this 2022 campaign with this next-gen car. Craig Launslager will be in that second row with Eric Schaefer to his inside. And how about Colin Forster, Francisco? I think what we talked about with the case of Smith, a lot of drivers who did not qualify, did not set times in queue, are now starting to sort of pinch their way through this field. Forster, Smith, along those drivers who are doing so, and Forster's already up to really good progress after finishing second at Auto Club a couple of weeks back.
Sister racetrack, so we know Forster is going to be competitive here tonight. You know, he's silently working his way up to the front. We know that Colin likes to show his hand at the end of the race, so we still have a long way to go before we start talking about the end of the race. Still over 110 laps left in this one. We've had 3 cautions in the first 15 laps of this one. Hopefully that's not indicative of what we're waiting for tonight, but let's hope that these guys can kind of settle down the first couple of laps, get some green flag laps under them, and kind of let the run be itself. I mean, I'm hoping that's the case anyway. The pace car is going to make that left onto pit road and put the field in the hands of Brian M. Smith. It's going to be up to him when he decides to go. We'll see. He's going to launch right there. The inside lane stacks up a little bit right behind him, but Peel gets a good enough launch to solidify second, but Smith is going to be at least 3 car lengths ahead.
So Smith will clear the field back to turn 1. First side-by-side battle is for third. Eric Schaefer now to the inside of the 13 is going to be able to clear here and stick behind the Cobalt Chevrolet Camaro. Actually, no, he's going to dive to the inside, so never mind that. He won't settle for third. He'll be in it for second. Daniel Michel wobbles a bit there coming out of turn 2. That's a pass on the inside of Brandon Banks. Here comes Forster to make it a 3-horse fight. Now make it 4 with the 13 of Launslager.
And Schaefer able to move up to second. And we talked about this at Las Vegas, Kenneth. Schaefer has shown that he's good with these low downforce packages. He was not as sufficient with the high downforce package. And we'll see if this is something that could help his case in a potential championship run. But, I mean, look at him right now. He's going to go to the inside of Smith for the lead.
Already aggressive here in the opening stages, but he got loose there on the entrance of the corner, so he'll bobble back just a little bit. He'll tuck in for second, and actually he'll almost lose the car at a turn 2. Shades of Las Vegas here in Michigan. He'll dog on the bumps right there underneath the apron. He'll fall back to at least the top 8 or 9. Maybe the top 10 here is this Brandon T. Banks on the very outside of the racetrack. But just got a little bit too overeager on the throttle there, as now we've got a huge battle for second. Multiple cars in this pack. Peel versus Launslager for P2.
They're fighting for second, and that's helping Smith right now because he does have that right side damage, and it's not going to kill his momentum, but it's certainly not going to help his top end speed. And with these guys all drafting, they're going to close the gap eventually. You see right there, you have the speed on board with the 13. We'll see just how fast he is heading off into these corners. You see that with the draft, he's going to gain an immense speed down the Max straightaway and goes 199, almost 200 miles an hour into turn 3. We'll see what he has going into turn 1. You see the 25 to the inside. He's starting to work his way up, and now he's going to have the triple draft down in 4th. They're going to train by everybody. They're going to kind of go there, snake down to the bottom, and Launslager, I think he's going to well surpass 200 miles per hour here going into turn 1, and he is indeed going to do so. You see there, just for a brief second, 200. So these guys in the draft are doing just that. You see Smith had a moment there in the lead, and this draft is going to get to his inside and to his outside. They're going to split him into 3 wide.
3 wide, 2 Chevrolet Camaros with a Camry in the middle. Looks like Smith may have tagged the apron there in 1 and 2. That really checked him up, and Peel now going to work to the outside. Michel trying to make something work down low, but he's going to lose the fight to the 99 of Forster for second, as Smith now falls into the clutches of the top 5, and maybe even worse. There's Scott Healy. We saw him involved in the first incident tonight with Brian Anderson. He's now up to what looks to be the top 5 as he goes to the inside of the 13, and this is exactly what we've been looking for here at a track like Michigan, Francisco. Huge pack racing for the lead, and for every position behind, here's Michel with a slide job for the lead.
We see a lot of aggressive racing, but I think one thing that does come to mind with this race car, Kenneth, is that this race car commands respect Overconfidence with this race car can be an issue. That's where you have your troubles, your moments of losing the race car and have trouble saving it. So this car, you have to be gentle with it and treat it with an immense amount of respect to get some speed out of it. The second you get overconfident, that's where we have these issues. So we'll see these guys push the limit on how overconfident they're willing to be. You see right there, Peel does not go for the move. He's going to stay behind the 25 of Michel and not exactly race for the lead. I think that's probably the smart thing to do right now, because look behind him, a long line of cars kind of sticking together for this lead group. No one really breaking away. That's still very typical of Michigan, but no one's really right on each other in the sense of nose to tail, even side by side throughout the whole way, as we probably would have seen with the Gen 6, because of the fact that you still have to lift for these corners. And what you also see is a lot more different grooves. You see guys going all the way up to the fourth line, guys maybe trying to go all the way to the bottom. So it has opened up that possibility. But Peel's decided now is the time. He's going to go to the move going into turn 1.
Here comes Peel to the bottom of the racetrack. He'll try to tuck the nose just ahead of the 25, but the outside and the banking really going to help Michel here out of the corner. He's also going to have some potential draft help if the 99 will stick with him. Looks like Forster will try to work with Peel this time through. And Peel will duck down to the bottom once again. We'll try to look for the race lead. And this is a similar phenomenon to what we saw at Auto Club just a handful of weeks back. In the first couple of races, we saw this outside line, how good it was, especially when you could get a pack like this formed up. Yes, you could try to get the move on the inside. Yes, you can kind of get an advantage in the middle, maybe near the exit of the corner, but as soon as you rise up out of the banking, either to the front straightaway or the back straightaway, if there are a bunch of cars lined up on the very top groove, you may well be just hit by a freight train. All of them will go by you in a matter of moments. We saw that at Auto Club in fruition. We're going to see that again, but there's a car around all the way to the inside. I believe Benson may have been involved. Indeed he is. That's Alishire along with him. Caution flag will wave once again at lap 23. And two of the victims in two of the past incidents get involved in something else again.
That's not the kind of 50% record you want to have. And it looks as though Benson may have just left the session, so that's going to be it for his chances. But that damage, you see right there, the 14 probably did not exit as high up on the racetrack as Benson thought, and both hard into the inside wall. Not the luck that Alishire was hoping to have in the paint that just won its most recent race.
See right there, the hard hit into the safer barrier. And for the 14, I don't believe he had used his fast repair just because the incident with Tyler Murray at the time was not too significant. You can see the scratches right there on the left side of the Mustang. So, indeed, he still has a fast repair left in him. But for Benson, we saw how much damage he had with the incident with Smith on the front straightaway. And then they both got together. Just a hard hit overall. Benson, of course, not able to repair the car. He's going to have to spend a lot of time down pit road. So he figured it was just best to stop the car and to DNF here tonight. The 14 looks like will continue, and we'll have a fast repair waiting for him on pit road, but he is smoking that engine. Not happy, of course, immensely damaged, so he's going to have to hope that the car does not completely stall by the time he gets to his pit road area. And so he'll be behind the 42 of Christopher Bishop. He'll just try and limp it down pit road the best he can. But while he's going to take a trip down pit road, so will everybody else. The main portion of the field, pretty much everybody on the lead lap will take their first hand at some yellow flag stops here. A lot of this forced strategy. We see a lot of drivers that within the past couple yellows do it for damage control. This one to make it near to the end of this race, or at least get close to a potential one stop for the checkered flag, Francisco.
Most of these guys were just past halfway on their field. I think it's still at least 2 or 3 stops left to the end of this race. We got 100 laps to go. Forrester actually did overshoot his pit stall as we were coming in, so he's going to lose several spots on pit road, as you were able to tell there a little bit further back. Michel was able to keep the lead on pit road, as you see everybody filing out now. Minor changes throughout this field, but I will say, Kenneth, we did see a little bit of a taste of a run there. That was the longest run we've had in this race to this point. We'll see how long the next one is, but I think now with these new tires, we're going to have the same issue we had at the start of the race, these tire temperature issues, and how quickly can these guys get the tires to warm up.
It's going to be a big talking point as the field will pick up the iRacing official pace car, and that's the thing with these next-gen cars. We've seen it happen not only in official racing, not only in this league, but also in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. We've seen a lot of drivers struggle with handling over the first couple laps, but as soon as they get maybe 4, 5, 6, and then they continue to add on to the tally, their car starts to feel a little more snug, starts to be a little more comfortable, and it's not as unpredictable as it is when you've got cold tires. And we've seen sort of the opposite with the Gen 6 races. We saw usually when you get fresh tires, the car will kind of snap on you a little bit, but you can usually keep it under control. Then when you start to put laps on the car, is at that point where it really starts to struggle, and the car is going to really be ripping out of your hands. You're going to try to have to keep it as stable as possible. It seems to be the opposite here with this brand new 2022 machine. So we will line them up once again, 2 by 2 throughout the entirety of the field. Daniel Michel, the California native, will be your race leader. It was just short of the win at the Virtual Auto Club Speedway, which was his home track. Of course, a Los Angeles native driver, Lawson Peel, a winner on the West Coast swing, not only once but twice, was the winner at Phoenix. He's going to line up on the inside, looks to be on row 1, was also the winner at Las Vegas just 2 weeks back. Looks like, I think, Francisco Michel, the first driver really here to take the outside lane on a restart. Very interesting choice by the 25.
That's actually not the first time someone's chosen the outside. Kyle Benson in one of those restarts early on eventually went with the outside lane, and it worked out well for him. We'll see if the change works for Michel, because he was lined up on the bottom, but he saw there in turn 2, decided to tell the 12 to swap spots with him. I guess that's the plan here. So that's going to put Lawson Peel on the bottom. That's going to put Eric Schaefer behind the 25 of Daniel Michel, and you see most of the field kind of filing through. We'll hope that this is a little bit of a longer run. We hope that we don't have these same issues at the race start, and it's not really these drivers' fault. Again, we've talked about the new car and the inherent things with this race car that it does with these cars, and it's going to take a while, understandably so, for these guys to really get a grip for them. But until then, we have to come to expect these sort of things, and the 25 is going to launch. He's going to take the green flag, going to get clear before turn 1. They're going to be side by side for second.
Not as good of a start for the leader as we saw the past couple of restarts by, but he is able to clear. Everybody else looks like Schaefer moved to the very outside of Lawson Peel. That is for second. They've really also got third on back, or rather fourth on back. We saw Healy and the others kind of get close for a little bit, but now they're starting to really each other down in, as Peel will lose that fight for second. He'll fall into third. He'll stay within the draft, and all of them attempting to catch up to Michel, who's already broken out to about a 3/10 of a second advantage. You right on board right here on the rear end of the Chevrolet Camaro. It looks like with the attrition, with the early wrecks that we've seen in this race, everybody now starting to single file out. They don't want to race each other as hard. Look at the snake trolling there going into turn 1. I think Michel, though, Francisco, does have to watch out, because if they're side by side, they're losing time. But if they're single file, they're catching you very quickly.
That is most likely the case, but right now it looks as though they are going side by side. That's the 12 appeal to the inside of the 22. They worked that out, but an aggressive move there for a brief second by that 64 of Healy. He was looking to the inside of Peel. So they're all trying to race behind Eric Schaefer. That could help your race leader. And I must say, Kenneth, I'm not sure about you, but every time I see any sort of snake trailing going on, it looks very aggressive by everybody, and it definitely makes it a little bit more intense. It just visibly looks like intense action. We see guys snake trailing on the straightaways.
Oh no, it is definitely intense. It reminds me a bit of the Indy cars at Indianapolis, how they do that every single time they're on the straightaway just to try and break the draft. But then you see everybody else follow, and it just looks like a continuous line from the entrance of turn 3 to the exit of turn 2, as a caution will come out once again. Looks like an incident near the rear, and I think Tyler Murray, league owner, involved in this.
Cody Ivy as well.
Looks like Cody Ivy also a part of this as well. So Ivy already struggling big time here tonight. Brian M. Smith is, I believe, also taking a trip to the garage. So his night is over. Just a bizarre sequence of events and a lot of early cautions here, taking a lot of the big names away from the potential checkered flag later on tonight. Here's a look at the replay. This is 14 of Alshire in the middle. That is the 27 heading loose, but it's actually Murray that loses the car first. And then Ivy gets into him. May have been a separate incident. It looks like Travis Anderson in the 84. We saw him involved in one of the first accidents tonight. He also goes hard into the inside wall. You see him there on the far side of the screen, going directly into the safer barrier. There's a look at Murray, and just a similar incident to what happened with Alshire. And funny enough, Alshire was just right behind him by the time this incident occurred. Did not directly get involved in the incident, but Murray, same problem. No doubt, just gets loose and the car steps out. Cody Ivy this time, the one that T-bones him at the end.
And a very close call. You see one of those cars going by. the 8 of Murray. But we'll look ahead and see exactly what happened. You see, I think the 81, yeah, or the 84 rather, you see him right there. He had gotten tagged into the outside wall after avoiding this crash right there, hits the wall, and has no control of it afterwards, and it goes hard, fast into the inside wall. You see it caught some air there, and that unfortunately was going to do it for him. Unfortunately, a lot of attrition early on in this race, and we're not even a quarter of the way through.
Yeah, I want to apologize there. That is Travis Anderson, not Brian Anderson. Very wrong on my end. But nonetheless, Anderson involved in a heavy accident there on the back straightaway. Goes hard into the wall. Looks like his night, of course, will be done, as Michel will calm the field down. Everybody will slow up once again, but we saw a pass there for third. Scott Healy, despite being involved in one of the earliest incidents here tonight, just shortly after the green flag dropped, he's now up to third. So a very big move up here for the Nike Chevrolet and one of the defending Cup Series champions. Of course, not from last season, but from the season before. Was able to pretty much have a walk-off season finale, and was really able to show the rest of the field how good he was. Was unfortunately not part of a majority of the last Cup season, or our last hurrah, I guess as we should say, with the Gen 6 car, but good to see that Healy is now starting to get back more active here in this 4-Wide Racing Cup Series, and we'll see if he can try and get another title, because it looked like last season was his quote-unquote retirement season, where he didn't show up as much. Looked like he was letting the field kind of handle their own business, but I think this season here, 2022, with as active as he's been over the course of these first handful of races, this is his title defense, as you would call it, most likely.
Yeah, I think he's going to try for it more appropriately this time around. Didn't really make an attempt for it last season. I think he only made 1 or 2 starts at most. I do remember one of them being at the Texas Motor Speedway. Came very close to winning that one as well. So if you're going to make 1 or 2 starts in a season, you definitely want to try and be contentious in it. But right now, running solidly in the 3rd spot. As we take the 1 to green here, you see the front row take their spots. And Michel will choose the outside once again. So Healy in the 3rd spot will be on the inside behind 2nd place, 22 of Eric Schaefer. So we'll see just how everything on this restart works out. You see there, you can already tell that there's a significant less amount of cars on the racetrack, and that may help with the overall situation with what we're seeing with the cars getting sideways, because when you run with less cars, you lose the risk of somebody having some sort of issue going into turn 1. Obviously, it's not what you want to see, but given what we have seen in this first couple of laps, that may be useful to getting some green flag laps.
Yeah, most likely will, and Healy there will start on the inside of row number 2, as Schaefer and Michel will be the hosts here, as we should call it, for the rest of the field in that first row. Healy, the 6th place driver in all-time wins here in the 4-Wide Racing League. Of course, trying to make sure he can add on to that tally. He currently has 5 wins in his entire 4-Wide Cup career, and or really 4-Wide career overall. Going to look to continue that move up in his, I guess, all-time run in 4-Wide Racing League history, as he's going to work inside there. He's going to be, looks to be 4th. Lawson Peel will be timed as 3rd. Eric Schaefer and Danny Michel will be 1st and 2nd. Of course, Michel, your leader by the time we go back green. So we had a semi-long green flag run, but we haven't quite had the long run we were looking for, especially when pit road stops start to come into the question. But nonetheless, Michel will get back on the gas. We're back under green for Michigan.
You see most of the field through at the middle there, kind of trying to get single file if they can. Schaefer able to solidly get into 2nd. See Peel on the outside trying to see if he can take 3rd away from Healy. He's a little bit sideways, but using that outside to his advantage, he is going to get clear. So Healy down to 4th now. Maybe a little bit of contestant there with the 13 of Lautenschlager, but Michel able to get clear into turn 3, and he's solidly out in front. The 22, a little bit of a moment there in 3 and 4. He's going to drift up the racetrack. It's going to allow the 12 of Peel to get to the inside and try to take 2nd away, but the 22 is going to have some help.
Schaefer really had to catch the car there in the middle of 3 and 4, but he's able to keep 2nd And fortunately for him, he's going to have Scott Healy, Craig Lownslugger, and a bunch of cars behind him in a single file line up top to give him some assistance to at least fight against the bottom side driver here is Lawson Peel working for second. How about Curtis Kelly? We saw him get into an incident, had to use the fast repair. Look at him up to 7th right now, and Kelly very good with this next gen car we've seen over the course of the campaign. Has had a lot of great runs, a lot of top 5s, a lot of top 10s, but he's missing the last check in the box, and that is a checkered flag, and he looks like he'll get it sooner than later here in 2022 as he looks across to the front of his windshield. That's AJ Green, defending series champion, on the very outside. But nonetheless, Curtis Kelly, very strong with this car, very strong this season. He'll get loose though in the middle of 1 and 2. I believe he's gonna catch it, but I think commentators jinxed him as well.
A little bit too long with the one driver, and unfortunately he's gonna lose all those spots, but at least he kept the car straight, and I think that's probably the most important thing when it comes to this race car. So if you're able to get away from a spin or from a little of a moment like that and come away with a clean race car, I think you'll take that over what the alternate would be with this new race car. But you mentioned that there's AJ Green in the 7th spot in that beef machine that sort of is similar to the Ricky Bobby car. It has the similar paint on it, and it's got beef all over it now. So we did ask AJ if beef was still going to be the theme for this season. I was hoping he would maybe try some pork or some different kind of meat, but it's going to be beef.
Well, you know what they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if beef brought him to the championship last season, I think he's going to stick with it for as long as possible. Sort of his good luck charm. But you are right, Ricky Bobby colors, not the Ricky Bobby font on the 48. Very creative, I think used in MS Paint, if I'm not mistaken. But also a big difference, not the cougar on the hood. There's a cow on the hood of the race car, of course, fittingly so. And AJ Green currently running 6th, just behind his teammate in Colin Forster. But we've got a huge battle for what looks to be the race lead already. Eric Schaefer found help significantly from Lawson Peel. Got a big draft run going into turn 1. Could not make the pass officially complete for the front spot. And that was very close. Michel dodged a bullet there as Lawson Peel is going to lose all help on the very bottom.
And I think what we've seen already, Kenneth, is now that we've gotten a couple laps under green, there's sort of about 3 groups out on the racetrack of cars that are together. You see about 9 or so that are in this front group that are leading this race. Then you have a little bit of a smaller group consisting more about 5 cars, about a second behind that group, and then a third group all the way at the back. And look at that move by Healy all the way back from 3rd. He's going to dive to the bottom. He's not going to have the amount of grip to hold it down there, though, so he won't take the lead. And Schaefer's going to try and jump to the outside. Does not have enough of a run to get there. So he does take the 2nd spot away. Couldn't exactly hold on to the lead. But there goes now Schaefer to the bottom. He wants to try and retake that spot. So a lot of action going on behind your race leader. Maybe he gets alongside that 25. I think he's actually there. So side by side for your race lead with Healy in 3rd. We'll see what happens here as Colin Forster's now up to 4th.
Yeah, but it's all going to be about how much help you can get out of turn 2, and the positives may swing onto the side of the very high side. They've got 3 now, 4 cars, it looks like, on the very top versus only 2 on the bottom. Colin Forster really the only one to give support here to the 22 of Schaefer, and right there, the big freight train in draft starting to work out. Looks like Schaefer's able to keep maintained, though, despite that. They're going to stay side by side for the lead now. Here comes Forster again on the inside looking for 3rd. Michel going to run way up on what looks to be the 4th, 5th line here in Michigan. He'll continue to hold on to the very top side. But Eric Schaefer right now nosing ahead for the lead at the start-finish line.
He doesn't have the help, though, right now. Michel does from Colin Forster, so that's going to put the 25 back out in front of the field. Forster and the 22 of Schaefer are going to be side by side for that 2nd spot. A little bit of a wiggle out of the 99. You see right here also on board the Scott Healy machine. He's going to try and settle in. If Schaefer actually tags the wall, he's able to keep it straight, but you see everybody scattering to avoid him.
Yeah, we're almost 4 wide there on the back straightaway. Look at Austin Bloom merging into the top 5 for the first time here tonight. Haven't said much of that name since the drop of the green here in Michigan, but Bloom has all of a sudden put his name into this entire shuffling for the race lead as everybody will go all over the place. Looks like Michel will again dodge another large bullet. This time as Peel will occupy 2nd. Healy will hold on a 3rd. And Austin Bloom, we saw him moving to 5th. He's now up to 4th. Colin Forster fell back to that top 5. He's trying to fight against that 22 of Schaefer. Turn 2, though, very, very tricky, Francisco, out here in Michigan, because I kind of mentioned it a little bit at Auto Club not too long ago. This track is very large. This track is very wide. And, yes, you could take as much advantage as of the space as you can. But if you get a little bit too greedy, if you push the car a little bit too hard, chances are you may end up at that outside wall sooner than later if you push it hard enough. Schaefer got into there. Now he's going to get into the 14 of Alishire there. I think the third time we've seen Alishire involved in an incident. This time collects the pole sitter, Craig Lounslogger. And we are under caution once again, a lap 42 of 125. It looks like the bad luck cannot escape Adam Alishire.
The third incident he's been involved in today. That's not the kind of there's a soccer term for it. That's not the kind of hat trick you want to have in this sort of instance before halfway in the race. So very much a struggle for the 14 of Alishire, but Lautenschlager, a little bit of an innocent bystander there, kind of had nowhere to go. You see, there he is right there, and the incident's going to happen in front. The 14 and the 22 racing, and I think the initial contact right there may have been some minor neck hood. We'll see what exactly it is. See, the 22 does have some damage. They're going to try and drift up a little bit, and actually, no, he does actually hit him very lightly, but I must say that the contact definitely drove the 14 down, and in trying to correct it, went back up the racetrack and into the 13, and you saw Curtis Kelly also involved. You were talking about him a couple laps ago. He's involved as well.
Looks like Kelly, for the most part, gets away unscathed, although he got hit by the 27 car on the way as he was spinning through the grass. It looked really, couldn't do anything there, just got tagged by the 13 as Lounslogger was traveling down the track. Look at that avoidance there. Looks like the 50 car got around all that. That is the driver of Dave Bush, his Chevrolet Camaro. He gets around that just barely there to the inside wall, and that inside wall very dangerous if you get too close to it. Of course, you saw, looks like, I think Grant Enfinger got into that wall a couple of years back in the Truck Series, but look how close that is. I don't think you could get any shorter than that in terms of the distance between himself and the car right beside as they were spinning down low. But in terms of the wreck between Alishire and Eric Schaefer, just making the contact there on the front straightaway, not as hard as the contact between Smith and Benson a little bit earlier tonight, but of course, as fast as you're going, that is going to be a hard hit anyway, and it looked like he almost had it saved. It's just the 13 could not slow down in enough time to get out of harm's way, and then tagged him and then sent the 14 pretty much facing perpendicular to the racetrack.
Yeah, that was not exactly ideal for either of those drivers, and definitely for Alishire, who's been involved in this third incident and already used his fast repair, so he's definitely going to struggle for the rest of this one. You see, actually, a good portion of the field came down pit road that time. So now we have two different strategies going on. About 7 cars or so have stayed out here, and another almost 10 or so have decided to come down pit road and put on some brand new tires. So they're still going to have the temperature issues, but they will have newer tires. So if they're able to settle out the temperature issues and go about 3 or 4 laps, they may as well be faster than those in front of them and could possibly put on a challenge for the lead and a little bit more of an advantageous way than what we're used to seeing in the early portions of the race. You see Lance Hill won the race off pit road, so he's going to be the first one with these tires. There's the 60 of Dave Bush, or the 50 of Dave Bush that we saw avoid that wreck, and he definitely channeled his inner Rowdy Bush to try and use any talent that he had to get through there. But that Wendy's machine, that 38, we'll see what he does with these 4 fresh tires.
It's going to be interesting on how he's going to do. Actually, I don't believe he took 4 tires because the timing on the pit stop says 7.7 seconds. So maybe just a 2-tire stop or maybe just fuel here on the case of the 38. But for Dave Bush, everybody else behind, they're around that 15-second bracket. So indeed, it looks like they've taken 4 tires and fuel along their way. So they're more of the advantageous cars here. Hill just taking the gamble and maybe just trying to play the fuel game a little bit different here than the drivers up in front. Very interesting also because he's got a lot of teammates up in front of him as well. That 48 of AJ Green being one of them, Colin Forster, another one to think about as well. And him kind of taking the alternate route on strategy may pose something interesting, especially if we stay green. Now, if we get continuous yellows, won't matter that much because the majority of the field up front that did stay out, they can just come down for 4 fresh tires and fuel, and it will pretty much change the strategy game just a little bit, but it won't change it by much, and they'll most likely even out. But with the strategy call by Hill, it looks like maybe he's hoping that it either stays green or that they get a quick yellow so that everybody at least can equal out, and Lance Hill can, at least for the most part, maybe just follow these guys to pit road if they go there.
Yeah, we'll see how this works out. I mean, we have the last two restarts. We have seen some relatively long runs for at least for the standard we've set tonight. If that's the case again on this restart, I think we're in for a good one because half of the field that's remaining in this frame did come down pit road, and about the other half, the smaller portion in the front 3 or 4 rows, stayed out. So, like I mentioned, we are a little bit down on the car count, which possibly could play a factor in these longer runs. We'll see what this different tire strategy does. You see Michel able to get away pretty well, able to get clear by about 2 car lengths going into turn 1. Peel looks like he'll get clear for second as well. Austin Bloom is going to be battling the 64 of Healy for that third spot. He's actually going to go back to the inside now of the 12. We'll see if he's able to stick it in there. I don't believe so. And everybody further back is going to stay single file. So they kind of work this out rather quickly, and everybody settles through and on the back straightaway.
So everybody single file. Peel looking for the pass down low is now going to take the opposite approach of Daniel Michel. Not going to directly follow him in 3 and 4, but still going to remain slightly high up on the racetrack. I think he's got to move here out of turn 4. And Didi May, he's going to tuck in behind, get the draft, and he'll stay there on the back bumper of the 25, the sandwich stickers car, so he would not make a move yet. Bloom is going to have a big run going into the first corner, but also not going to take advantage of the door open for him. Peel going to look up high. Michel directly going to look down low, may give the advantage to Peel this time through, and everybody mostly single foul. Look at Lance Hill, almost looked under his teammate for a moment.
He was there to the inside, but of course, he didn't have the momentum off the corner to stay side by side with Forrester. But those are the 2 tires. I believe he did take 2 there, Lance Hill did, and he's trying to put them into use. But the draft, of course, making things difficult. He is trying to do his best, though, but Peel to the inside of Michel. He's able to get there. He's trying to side draft. He's going to have the position going into turn 1, but Michel has the advantage on the outside lane. If he could just stay there, it could work out for him, but I think Peel's clear.
Also a battle for fourth. Scott Healy underneath Colin Forster, and may also bring Austin Bloom into the mix as well. Looks like Healy is officially clear of the 99, but Lawson Peel takes control of the race lead at lap 48 of 125. And Peel, coming into this race, is tied with 2 other drivers for the most top 10s in this entire 2022 season. All of them currently have 4. The other drivers to hold on to those top 10s include Colin Forster, who's currently racking up the top 5, and Brennan Banks, who's a little bit further back in this field. But there is no doubt that Peel has been remarkably quick with this next-gen car ever since Daytona. And now there's another Chevrolet looking on the inside of Daniel Michel. This time, Austin Bloom out from Colin Forster this time out of turn 2.
A lot of battling going on behind the race leader. That's kind of what we've seen at points throughout the night. But Michel gets the push from Lance Hill to get clear for second. Hill now trying to get ahead of his teammate for that third spot. So I'd look out for this 38. He's been rather quick on this run. We'll see what he's able to do. Oh, he's going to get right close to Michel and actually going to duck to the inside. The 2 couldn't go with him. Forster's not going to go with them either. So they're actually going to leave Hill out on the inside. You see he's going to lose 2, maybe 3 spots on the inside as Healy comes there as well.
The draft just too powerful there for Hill to try and fight against. He'll still maintain on the inside of his teammate there, but he'll most likely not find space in between that 99 and the 64. Actually does. So it looks like Healy had let him go in. Maybe the nice gesture here from Healy now early on in the race. May not be the same case by the time we get near to the white flag, but as they continue to tag on for second, to the 12 of Peel, has been able to pull away by just a little bit. The draft is going to reel the field back in with him. Colin Forster tried to look underneath his teammate Lance Hill for a moment. Now looks like Michel maybe peeked in, but not going to take the move just yet.
I think probably now's the best time, more than at any point in the race that we've gotten so far, Kenneth. Just after completing 100 miles of this race, I think now's the best time to sit on board with some of these cars, sit on the racetrack, and listen to the sounds of these cars going around this track.
Just heard all of the sounds here at the glorious virtual Michigan International Speedway as Lawson Peel looks to have christened to the race lead. Lance Hill has moved outside for second, and they've made a couple of charges there at the race leader, and most notably, they charged against Danny Michel, who has since fallen all the way back to P9, as he's now tucked in behind Scott. He looks like Colin Forster will make a move underneath. That is for second, and maybe for the race lead. That is teammate versus teammate. And how about Tyler Warner moving into fourth for the first time tonight?
Tyler Warner having a strong run here tonight, has kind of stayed quiet in a good way. He's kept himself out of the drama, still has a fast repair available, and right now he's challenging up here with the front guys, trying to go for the lead. But one driver that is making the actual move for the lead is 38 of Hill, who we mentioned took 2 tires there on that last pit stop, and he's trying to see if he can put them into use. It's definitely enabled a little bit more speed out of that 38, and it has allowed him to be more racy, but Warner is able to get to the outside, and he's now up to second.
So Warner, what a remarkable move up to the field it's been for one of the former winners in this 4-Wide Racing Cup Series. It's been a while since we've seen this 33 up at the front taking checkered flags away, but of course, rather be late than never, as a 33 now tucks in his second. He'll most likely have help from the 38, who is not going to look underneath. He'll stay behind in the draft, and it is a very long line of cars. It really goes all the way back to 13th, or rather 12th. The 13 car, that is Craig Laumslager, is the last car in this sort of long stretch of the field before you get to Michael Newbraw on the 6th, who currently holds 13th, and that is a second group of cars that goes all the way back to the 27 of Dustin Webb. So a large main group versus a kind of stout, smaller group this time by. So we'll see if they maybe get close to each other by the time we get near the end of this race. Tyler Warner is looking. Tyler Warner peaked, and he almost got directly to the inside of Lawson Peel. Just could not do it. Is not going to take the risk back to turn 1.
And this is kind of how Michigan races work, isn't it? Because normally what we'll see is we'll see about 10 to 12 or 15 cars in a little bit of a draft at the front of the field sometimes, and maybe in a long enough run they break away in of itself, but for the most part this is what you'll see, and then the rest of the field kind of trickles down into its own little group. So for the most part, when you race at Michigan, you're almost always in a group. It's just naturally faster that way. That's what makes it super speedway-esque. But of course, you're going to be racing with the normal package. We saw there a couple laps ago, guys were going 203, 204 miles an hour going into turn 1. So there is some speed to be had in the draft with these race cars that we haven't seen here in quite a while. And that's proven to be a challenge in these long runs, because as tires wear and with the natural low downforce that these cars have, that's a lot of checking up you have to do going into turn 1 from such a high speed.
And you mentioned the COT days, Gen 5, back when they would go about 220. They would have the same problem. Of course, these cars not as fast going into the entrance of the first turn, but it is still the same problem, which you really have to check up. You got to slow down, you got to hop on the brakes, and obviously in the midst of dirty air where you've got a bunch of cars in front of you, if you're in the case in the mid-pack, it is going to get a lot harder for you to rotate through the corner and have that car respond to you. It's better if you're a driver like Lawson Peel, who's got a lot of clean air. His car probably rotates a lot better, but he still has the problem with checking up. It's just less of an effect, and it plays more to the positive rather to the negative if you're on clean air and not having to worry about the air just really getting turbulent around where second is and even third and everybody behind, even in that second pack where you saw Michael Newbraw leading by just a little bit. So there were some charges at passes here as AJ Green will potentially look under Austin Bloom. He had tucked back just a bit, made some space clearly between himself and the 2 car, getting some help from the 50 of Dave Bush, who's now under fire from Scott Healy. And it looks like, I think, Francisco, a lot of them are attempting what could be the slingshot here. I know he's got the Ricky Bobby car on him, so it is technically a reference to the movie, but it is something you can pull off realistically on the racetrack. You can hold back for just a little bit, and especially if you're single file, you can get a couple of drivers to help you. A couple of drivers give you the push, and all of a sudden that gap that you purposely made large starts to shrink very quickly, and with the huge draft runs you can get on these next-gen cars, it is possible to get a setup out of turn 4, get the gap closed by turn 1, and have your nose to the inside ready to go.
What I'm looking at here is that it looks as though Stonks Motorsports is trying to get all lined up. Right now they have that 50 of Dave Bush breaking that up, because AJ Green is in the back of the 3-car train with Lance Hill, Austin Bloom, AJ Green, and of course Colin Forster trying to get in there as well, but Dave Bush is kind of in the way of trying to get them aligned. And what that would allow them to go to the inside of your top two and make it work, because they'll have the draft help to make it work. And you see actually cars going up towards the wall there in 3 and 4, one of them being Colin Forster.
Colin Forster almost got completely turned around, and that was by his teammates. So while you said, Francisco, they were trying to work together, it looks like they ended up on the opposite strategy here. Coming into turn 3, you see the contact is made right there. Looks like AJ Green was just trying to tuck in behind the 99, thought he was completely clear, but he was not. A remarkable save by Colin Forster. Daniel Micho occupies the space, ends up with a bit of damage there on the front end, but that could have been a huge mess up there going into the corner, and luckily everybody keeps it clean.
I think Scott Healy came the worst off that. He hit the 25 of Micho and hit the wall as well, and he lost all that time. He's almost back now to the second group, so that's a really tough break for the 64. And actually, look, it looks as though we got pit stops. So guys that stayed out on that last restart are trying to come down pit road now. We've gone close to 30 laps almost since our restart. So that means that these guys that just came down pit road under the last caution could go about another 10 laps or so before they come down pit road themselves. So if this cycles out well and truly into nature, it's going to be very tasty to see how this works out.
It's going to be very interesting, and also more interesting to the fact that Lance Hill, he took only 2 tires there with fuel on his last stop, while Dave Bush and everybody else behind, they had taken 4 tires with the fuel. So maybe Lance Hill is going to be all by himself by the time he gets down to pit road. He just needs to hope that he can stay within the grasp of these guys. Maybe the draft just helps him in his case, and he can pit with them by the time it comes. Meanwhile, for everybody who had already come down pit road, for the likes of Lawson Peel and a majority of the front runners, there they are. There are the leaders, putting them all a lap down. Of course, they also still have to pit if we stay green. So it's only going to be good for these guys once they cycle around. It's just right now looking a little bit bleak as they're getting destroyed by everybody who has stayed out. And it's not going to be that way for that long. There's Peel immediately getting to your race leader, unlapping himself. I'm going to try to work back. This is going to be good for Peel, I think, Francisco, because he has been in control for the past couple laps, and this is the best sight you want to see. You come down pit road, you see the leader by the time you come out, and you know you've got fresh rubber, you know you got the better car, so you can just get by him, stay in front, hold your own, and then by the time these guys come in for service, you know you're going to have a good advantage over the guy in net P2 who currently sits as Austin Bloom.
That's very true, but also what you'll see here is that there's not too much of an advantage, not one that we're used to seeing anyway, between new tires and old tires. Obviously, the new tires are faster. You're seeing them work their way through this slower traffic, but it's not as overabundant as what we're used to seeing, and that's going to pay very interesting notice by the end of the race if it comes down to any strategy, because if old tires is not this much slower, then we might see someone go for 2 or maybe stay out in a late caution, trying to play the track position game to maybe go for a win. But that's still over halfway in this race remaining, as I think we are at the halfway point of the race, just past it anyways. And right there you see Forster now going by his teammate to unlap himself. He's got AJ Green behind. Peel with the lead over the 2 of Austin Bloom. And like I said, I think these guys that stayed out, that are leading this race in actuality right now, I think they could go another 5, maybe 8 laps before they have to come down pit road once more. Everybody still has to make at least another stop in this race before you can go all the way. So these guys have to stop again after this pit stop sequence, and so the guys that just pitted. So everybody in the field, once the pit stop cycle is complete, has to still pit one more time.
Also, you gotta wonder if you're the likes of Lance Hill and all these guys who have supposedly stayed out for this long, and of course have to come down pit road likely sooner than later. You do have to worry just a little bit that all these guys who are trying to unlap themselves, you don't want them getting in the middle of your pit stop plan, because of course Hill, Bush, all those guys, when they come in, they're going to come in into a group. They're most likely not going to come in separately. So if you've still got a lot of fresh tire guys trying to get around you and pushing themselves in the draft, it's going to be a nightmare if they got onto the inside and you're on the outside looking outside of turn 4 and saying, hey, I got to get down to the bottom of the racetrack, I got to slow down, I got to come in this time. But it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Everybody mostly playing the separation game here throughout, as it looks like Bush almost completely lost the car there at a turn 2. It's going to open the space up for Tyler Warner to move by 13 of Craig Lownslugger. Those are guys who did come down pit road, so they're obviously attempting to unlap themselves, and they still need to get around Lance Hill in order to make that plan come to fruition. Already past halfway here out of the 125 laps set to be completed for the 6th race in the 2022 4-Wide Racing Cup Series season. We're awaiting this second group to come down pit road. We'll take a short moment and step away, but you won't miss a thing here on MaxSpeedTV. We'll have it all for you on the other side.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics and engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
We've been waiting for this moment. Generations of innovation all coming together in one place. A pedigree of more than 70 years of NASCAR Cup Series history, from the past to the present, from Petty to Earnhardt to Elliott. Today, there's no more waiting. The future of NASCAR is now. Drive the next-gen cars today on iRacing and step into the next generation of racing.
Back live from the virtual Michigan International Speedway, where Lance Hill continues to lead round 6 of this 2022 4-Wide Racing Cup event. Glad to have you here on MaxSpeedTV. Kenneth Bueno, Francisco Bacchial along with you for the ride. We have seen a chaotic yellow field for a stint. now followed by a full strategy game that could happen all the way to the very end. This is a look at your race leader, Lance Hill. There's second place, Tyler Warner. There's third place, Craig Launslager. Fourth place, Dave Bush. And fifth place, Brian Dixon. So it's all these 5 cars. There's a 6th car in there, that's Brandon Banks. But they are all fighting against the guys who just came down pit road not too long ago, led by this guy, Lawson Peel in the 12, who has significantly gapped his fellow compatriots, Austin Bloom, and everybody else behind as they continue to battle for what will be net position. And Francisco, we've been asking each other over and over again whether these guys were going to come down now or whether they were going to come down later. Obviously, the answer is they have to come down at some point, but they're holding out for as long as they can, it looks like, at the moment.
Yeah, and if they continue to do so, it just might play into a potential strategy to where they can pit just this one time and be able to make it the rest of the way. I think, oh, we actually, no, forget that, we have a caution.
Caution flag out on the racetrack. And it looks to be the 19, Ooh. Ryan Seneker in his Ford Mustang. And Francisco, you had brought it up to me under break. Him and a couple of others had just come down pit road, so they had relatively fresh rubber. By the time they came out, they were merging by the time we talked about them when we were under commercial. Here's the 19. He just got passed by Michael Newbro and Tyler Murray. Those are 2 other drivers that followed him on the pursuit to pit road. We'll see if this is just a lone incident or whether there was just another outside factor that may have resulted in this incident. No, looks like Francisco just lost it all by his lonesome, and that was a big problem in Las Vegas 2 weeks ago. Drivers entering the corner, especially on cold rubber, just trying to arc it in the corner, get in between the seams, and then by the time they do that, everything misaligns, the car steps out, and there is no saving it past a certain threshold.
You see right there, it was just getting ready to slip, and he caught it. He was able to realize that the car was getting loose. The problem was he couldn't make the proper correction and hard into the outside wall. And I don't think there's anybody in the field that's exactly happy about that. I think the only guys are these that are able to make that strategy work. They're going to come down pit road, and I think everyone else is going to have to follow them back down pit road so that everyone's on the same strategy. Again, we'll see if that's the case. But one thing that this does raise eyebrows on is fuel. I don't think everybody can quite get to the end from here, and indeed you see Peel and the rest are going to come down pit road now. I don't think everybody can make it from here, Kenneth, but it is awfully close.
It is going to be very close, and obviously Peel and company, they do not want to take the gamble here by staying out. All of them want to come in and at least be equalized with these guys that will have significantly fresher tires, and of course will have more fuel in the tank. So a smart call by Peel and all those guys to come in. There's the fight for the lead off of pit road. I think Tyler Warner may have just nose ahead of the Ford Mustang of Lance Hill. So Tyler Warner picks up the race lead here from Michigan. Looks like Hill with a 14.8 second stop. Warner at 15.1. So a little bit slower Warner was on pit road, but just a better exit. I think a better roll through the pit lane before he and after the stall. And Tyler Warner just barely gets ahead, and he is able to get the race lead. There are a couple lap cars up ahead. That's Dustin Webb, Daniel Michel among those that are still a lap down, needing a wave around. But I think, like you said, Francisco, this was the miracle, the savior here. If you're all these guys who had made the gamble to pit a little bit earlier and stay out on their case, now they've got fresh rubber and they've got track position. That's the biggest key of it.
Yeah, they got their track position back after taking a limb out there. They were probably going to have to come down pit road soon anyways, probably within the next 5, without a doubt. And there's actually a car stopped there on the racetrack. It looks as though perhaps Cody Ivy or Austin Bloom, it seemed. I think it may have been Austin Bloom, and indeed it is. Actually, that's him right there. Actually, no, that is Cody Ivy. He's slowly rolling around the racetrack, and considering he's not accelerating, Kenneth, I think he may have been out of fuel.
It may have been the case. Ivy going to tow it immediately to pit road. Of course, that's going to take time on its own right. Just trying to limp it back to his stall. Unfortunately, could not do it. So that is going to put Cody Ivy probably more laps down on his case. At the moment, he currently sits 21st, 2 laps down. So that's probably going to put him maybe 3 or 4, or maybe even 5. We'll see if he stays on the racetrack, or at least in this event, maybe able to get back out on the track. But we'll just have to find out as he lays still in his pit stall, waiting for his tow service to officially finish. So while we're under this yellow flag, of course, we are looking at a total of 43 laps remaining. A lot of these drivers, like you said, Francisco, gonna need to come down pit road at least one more time. And we've been in situations like this before. Of course, I can recall a race that Tyler Warner went to victory lane in Daytona, where we were in a situation where you had to pit, but the time was very little. So a lot of guys were pitting around 15 laps to go. And in some cases, you could think, hey, that's a little bit too close to the finish. I don't want to pit in a case where caution could come out. I can lose my track position, and it's so close to the end of the race that I don't have time to pick it up. If you're in any of these guys' situations, Francisco, what time are you looking at to come down pit road realistically while still trying to keep the advantages that you just gained on that recent caution?
Well, first you have to know what the fuel window is, and we're still a little bit unsure just because of the new car. But my guess is that they can go at least 30 to 35 laps with the fuel that they have on board. If that's the case, you're looking at around 10 laps to go, or just a little bit afterwards, when they are able to go for their pit stop. I can confidently say that they cannot make it the rest of the way, but somewhere in those last 10 laps is going to be the latest point you can make that pit stop. I don't think you wait all the way till inside 10 laps to go to make that stop. I think perhaps with 20 laps to go or 15 laps to go is when you might consider coming in for that pit stop and maybe taking a gamble and going fuel only. You can maybe do left side or right side tires, but I'm not sure if 4 tires is exactly on the cards for everybody on that last pit stop if the race goes green from here on out.
There's going to be a lot of blurred lines, I think, near the end of this race just because of how close it is. And, of course, the timing of that yellow could not have been any worse for a lot of those guys who were already planning out how the rest of the race is going to be for them. Fuel strategy-wise, now they've got to throw that out of the window. They've got to formulate something new here, especially if you're the guys like Lawson Peel, Austin Bloom, and all those other competitors, because at that point of the race, before the yellow, you're looking to cycle back to the race lead, 2nd place, 3rd place, 4th place. But now you've got to deal with 6th place, 7th place, 8th place, 9th place, and all the way through the mid-pack. We've seen how crazy those races have been, even then some, with the battles we've seen up at the front for the race lead. We are going to go back to green flag racing with only 41 laps left to go in this race from the Michigan International Speedway. Green flag back in the air at lap 84. Tyler Warner immediately takes the field clear off to turn 1. Lance Hill in 2nd, side by side for 3rd.
And there you see Busch there on the inside trying to see if he can take 3rd from Lautenschlager. Lautenschlager's done a good job recovering after that early crash from the pole, and he's down in the top 5 right now, able to settle down in the 4th position. Scott Healy in the 5th position, Lawson Peel up to 6th. We'll see what he's able to do. You see Austin Bloom there was making a move to the inside in turn 3. All single file through the top 7.
There's a look at Bloom there on the rear end of Lawson Peel. They're able to split. Brian Dixon there, who just stays on the far outside. The 2 teammates and AJ Green, Colin Forster going to assist here, going back to turn 1 to maybe gain some more track position. Peel absolutely wasting no time. He's going to try and get here. Is Busch now gets loose. 2 more cars get loose. Everybody stacks up there in the middle, 1 and 2. And that's a big crash. AJ Green up into the outside wall. Colin Forster joins him. Austin Bloom is the 3rd car involved. And we talked about the issues, Francisco. You gotta wait a little bit before pushing it with these next-gen cars on cold tires. Everybody, it looked like everybody got loose in the middle of the corner, and there is absolute catastrophe there coming out to the back straightaway.
And all from a single organization as well. That's not what Fox Motorsports wanted to see in turn 2. That was probably the most expensive corner that they've had in a while. You see there was help going between AJ Green and Colin Forster going into turn 1. We'll see exactly where this may have risen. It looked as though the 60 got sideways, and he did. But what a save there. But it was those 2 behind them, those 3 really. They all got loose but couldn't make that same save. So we'll see on board from somebody further back. You see right there, those 2 cars in front of Bloom get sideways. Bloom gets sideways as well. Kind of gets into Forster. They both come up the racetrack, or into Green. Up the racetrack into Forster they go, and that was just very problematic there. You see Tyler Murray coming to a complete stop, ensuring that he doesn't hit anybody.
Let's see if we can get a look here with your league owner, Tyler Murray, in the 8 machine. We'll see if we can get another look at it. There's another instance of the replay. Here's Murray He's able to find a way past Bloom. Michael Newbraw, one of the late arrivers to the party. And you see he gets there. Aiden Murray completely gets to his stops. And the good thing for him is he's able to really lock it up before things get worse. But just everybody, I think, in a sequence of getting loose, all of them were in a synchronized movement, chasing themselves down the racetrack. And it starts with Bush right here, whose car steps out. By the time he lets off the gas into the corner, he's able to save it. He chases it up to the wall. He's able to keep it out of the safer barrier, but it's just all these guys that chase it down the track. And then obviously when one hooks another, by the time they're all just trying to keep hold of their race cars, one ends up in a quarter panel, turns the other car up the banking, and then obviously they're just holding the brakes and they completely get sent up there. Colin Forster, innocent bystander who was up there, and I'd say the second to third lane on the racetrack. Here's another look at everybody pretty much synchronizingly spinning down the track. And then the 99 of Forster just gets absolutely hammered there as Austin Bloom and AJ Green both get together.
Yeah, it's been very difficult to kind of get the hands with this race car because this seems to be a common thing on corner entry. I've never seen such an issue with cars on corner entry. Normally, if a car's going to get loose, it's usually center off, and that's very typical, and you can kind of expect that out of a race car, and you can kind of sort of go about it in a proper way, but you can't really adjust for it on the entry, and that seems to be where this car strikes. It's on the entry. It's when you let out of the gas, when you're turning into the corner, when you're slowing down. There's not much you can do if you're trying to slow down because you can't exactly stomp on the brakes. You're going to lose too much time doing that. Getting on the throttle doesn't help you that much either. So it's all in the wheel, and that's why you see guys making erratic moves to try and keep the race car straight. Because if you had to work on it on the corner exit, you're more concerned with your position on the throttle because you can kind of modulate that to try and work it out a certain way. And of course the wheel. So you have a little bit more tools at your disposal to sort of work that out. But interesting point here, Kenneth, I do want to point out, some cars went down pit road here with one to green to top off. I couldn't exactly see how many it was, but a handful of guys came down pit road just now. They're topping off on fuel, and you see right there, it looked as though it was at least 5 to 10 cars that came down on pit road to top off on the screen there for a second. I'm not sure if they can go the whole way, the whole 125 laps, but by pitting here, they're gambling and trying to make that happen, and I cannot blame them for trying to do so. Of course, that's the hope if this race does go green from here on out, which with these caution breeding cautions being very much a true statement, especially with these race cars, I'm not so sure if it's a for sure situation.
I don't believe it's a full confirmation that you can get to the checkered flag, but it does help you out. It does ease the nerves just a little bit because right now, I think if you're the guys at the front, you're still worried because you didn't come down pit road. You stayed with the track position. The good thing for a lot of the guys who were involved in that incident, unfortunately for Bloom, he's officially out of this race, but for the likes of AJ Green, for Colin Forster, for Scott Healy, a lot of them have kept their faster pairs in tow. So they've now pulled it here at the late portion of this race, and also given the fact that they had the chance to come down pit road and also maybe get some tires and some fuel along the way, it does help them and it keeps them still in this race competitively. We'll just see if it ends up unfolding that way. Pace car makes its way back down to pit road. We're green in lap 89 once more here at Michigan International Speedway. Again, another good start by your race leader. Lance Hill was able to hold on for second. Lawson Peel once again in a battle for third, this time with the 50 of Dave Bush. He's going to nose ahead for a moment out of the second corner. Looks like he's going to have him clear. And pretty much everybody single file out of turn 2.
And that's where you really start to see where there's less cars. You see single file a lot quicker. You don't see that many cars scattering throughout the field, and that should help these guys maybe try and attack the corner differently to try and keep the car under them. You want to go up there, take the position that's in front of you, but sometimes you lose sight of the fact that this car, like we talked about early in the race, it demands a certain level of respect on the early portion of the run, and I think sometimes people forget you have to do so. But look, there's Lundslugger now to the inside. He's going to go past Bush off the corner, move him up to the 4th position. Lawson Peel now still in the 3rd spot. And we're going to have to see what these guys are able to do in these laps. You see Colin Forster use that faster pair, and he's right there behind that, I believe that's the 03, and that's the 64. They're side by side for position. Tyler Murray is back out in the front, and to the inside now of Busch for that 4th spot.
Yeah, it looks like Healy is one of the biggest movers out of the drivers who just came down pit road for damage repair, and Forster is not going to stick behind the 64. He's immediately going to go for the pass on the very inside. He's going to have Tyler Murray in draft assistance there, but Murray's going to almost lose the car there in the middle of 1 and 2. It's going to check up Forster significantly, and it's going to lose him out in the battle there for what could have been P6 and maybe the entrance into the top 5. Here comes Healy now to the inside of Busch in turn 3.
Battle for the top 5 is on the cards right now, and Healy with a huge dive, and actually that was the 50 getting sideways. You see just how much they're going to check up, and a little bit of squeezing action there. Murray and Force are going to try and split the middle on him and Dixon to move up into the next 2 positions. Lance Hill leading this race. Peel moved up into 2nd. Now he's going to try and challenge for the lead. Lonslugger is down in the 3rd position, trying to see if he can hold off the 64 of Healy. So a lot of separation now at the front of the field, but there's kind of a little bit of a 5-car breakaway for the most part. Those are the cars you can kind of associate with the front of the field, Kenneth. And I think an important thing to note here, if we get a caution from here on out to the rest of this race, you can make it to the end of the race. So if a caution comes out, I would come down pit road just to assure that I can make it to the end. But the battle for the lead is on.
The battle for the lead is definitely on, and Lance Hill a couple of laps by. They absolutely freight train Tyler Warner, which pushes him back to 5th, but Lawson Peel just found the open door. Now he's looking to the very inside. He's going to try and make a slide jaw move out of turn 2. Not going to be successful this time by, but as they continue to go side by side, they're reeling in 3rd on back. I mentioned Scott Healy, one of the biggest movers out of the drivers who came down pit road. He's now up to 4th. He's helping out the 13 of Craig Lounslugger as Peel officially clears for the race lead. So if they continue to tangle like they have been for at least the past couple of turns, it's only going to allow Lounslugger and the gain to catch up fairly quickly. And I think the battle is still almost about to happen. Hale almost looked to the outside. He's going to stay behind in the draft at a single file all the way to what looks to be about 9th or 10th.
And now a move around the outside for Healy. He's going to go to the outside of that 13. Can't quite get there. Doesn't have enough grip to really roll to the outside of the 13. He's going to settle in behind. They have a run on Lance Hill. We'll see if Lonslugger goes for it. He does not. Healy doesn't either. And you see how much they dive in behind them. That's the 8 of Murray now moving up into the 5th position. So Murray, after taking that fast repair, may have some fresher tires than some of these guys in front of him. Not by much, but noticeably fresher tires. And that could be helping him right now because he is putting on some neat moves.
He's been relatively quick, and the 8 machine, after being involved in one of the incidents earlier tonight, getting into Alashire after sliding up the track, he's had a very good comeback here at this stage of the race, and he's got an opportunity to win if things go his way. Just needs a couple of more cars to get by as he slots into P5, staying behind patiently the 13 of Craig Lounslugger. Lawson Peel is pulled away to about a 0.2 of a second advantage. That isn't much by Michigan standards. Everybody can still close in very quickly, but with the infighting that you're seeing with Hill and everybody else behind, it is only making things easier for Lawson Peel to step away with the lead. Now things close drastically back to turn 1. Everybody went back single file. But I think, Francisco, if you're Peel, you may not be too worried because Hill is going to try to take this away. But Healy, as aggressive as he's been so far in this stint, he's going to try to take it away from Hill, which in turn is going to make them go side by side, but not for long. They'll all slow down in reverence of the caution flag, which comes out at lap 96 of 125. We'll try and find out who it may have been. It's Eric Schaefer in the 22.
And you see he's missing a front end there, so something that just happened right now going into turn 1. And I'm not sure if he was around anybody. You see, actually he was around Brandon Banks, and I believe that's ahead of Cody Ivey just behind him. We'll see what happened here. It looks as though maybe a situation where we're all too familiar with. He's going to go into the corner. He's going to lose the race car, and very similar. Oh, my goodness.
He just got absolutely grabbed by the wall, and then a hit. Secondary hit. That's Tony Kibbett in the 76, the red and black Coca-Cola Camaro. Well, this is the same deal as Ryan Seneca, except this one more violent than the last. You see here into turn 1, just holding on to the draft. That's Brandon Banks just in front of him, and this is not too far away from, I'd say, the top 15. There's Curtis Kelly leading a group of 3 just in front.
Watch this one.
And right there, car steps out, overcorrects. That is not a good sight to see the car go backwards after the wall grabs it like that.
and then that split second, you see a car facing right towards you. Shades of Cars, the movie.
And it's very scary, I think, if you're Tony Kivitt, because you do not see that coming. You're so far behind. You're really just focusing on your own race as the field comes down pit road. And like you said, Francisco, this is going to be the last call to make it to the end of this race. Of course, nobody wanting to take the chance. Everybody knows they cannot make it on field to the end. So this stop guarantees that they will be good by the time we get to lap 125. And this is all going to be about tire strategy and all going to be about conservation, as I think a mistake happened there. Francisco, the 38 of Lance Hill overshot the pit box by just a bit.
He did, and so did the 33 of Warner. So problems up and down the pit lane. We'll see who had the most efficient set of stops. We'll see the 12 is going to get out in the lead. It looks as though it's going to be possibly the 64 in second, followed by the 13. The 8 of Murray is able to come away in fourth, and Hill's down to the 5th position. So not much change at the front of the field, but definitely a couple of mistakes have cost some track position here for some of the front runners, and that's going to lose them some ground. Most of these guys, they should be able to make it to the scheduled distance of the finish of the race now, but I do think that if we get a caution somewhere inside 15 laps to go, you're going to see somebody trying to go on the pit road and try some sort of tire strategy difference to go for the win, because as we talked about before, if you're just sitting down in these cautions late in the race, sitting behind the leaders, that's all you're doing. You're sitting behind the leaders.
Lance Hill, one of the biggest losers there on that pit stop. He was second by the time the caution came out. He's going to restart what looks to be 5th, as Michael Newbraw will stay out. We're not sure whether this is a confirmed call from the 6th to maybe just get to the end. I think this is a confirmed call by Michael Newbraw, so Lance Hill won't be 5th. He will be P6 at the time of the restart, and we will have a surprise new leader. We're still going to wait whether Newbraw is going to come down pit road, but by this time, the second guesses usually come to a result, and the result this time is going to be to stay out. So Michael Newbraw, the only driver making this call on 11-lap old tires, on 11 laps in his stint, he's going to hold out hope for this race win on the outside of row number 1. Coming to the final 25 laps of this race, Lawson Peel will be underneath in second. Scott Healy and Launslugger, 2 of the best drivers out of that recent pit stop. They'll be 3rd and 4th, with Tyler Murray racking up the top 5. Lance Hill on the outside of that 3rd row, one of the biggest losers there. He is now in P6. So with this call, Francisco, is this a surprise? I mean, we probably didn't expect anyone to stay out, but with the way that Michael Newbraw ended up on pit road, maybe near one of the recent yellows, this could help him to get to the end and maybe give him a shot at the win.
It's definitely a risky call, but if you are Michael Newbraw, you weren't anywhere near the front, and at a track like Michigan where it's mainly about speed, you need some good set of tires, but if it's mainly about speed, you're in a good situation to begin with. So I think it was worth the try. We'll see just how it works out for him. I think if you're able to keep the lead through the first lap or 2, it should definitely help you out in your odds in defending the rest of the field. We'll see how it works out with the pace car turning left. It's going to go on a pit road. He'll control the restart. We're going to have 26 laps to go once we go back under the green flag. He's going to launch right there. Peel gets a good enough start to stay relatively close enough with him. He's going to tuck in line, but he will be clear, and that's a good start for him.
Green flag back in the air. Michael Newbraw clears for first. Lawson Peel is going to hold in for second, but I don't think Peel is going to waste any time behind your de facto race leader. He's immediately going to dart to the bottom, and he's going to take the lead away. How about Scott Healy charging for second out of turn 2?
It was a good launch, but everything after that did not work out from Michael Newbraw. So look for Launslugger, Murray. They're all going to try and make a move to get past this 6 going into turn 3. How about potentially 3 wide?
You're almost 3 wide there. Newbraw is able to hold in for 3rd. A car to the outside wall. That's Daniel Michel. They try to swerve around with a caution wave. Answer right now seems to be no. It's a single car smash into the safer barrier, so we will stay green. Michel, unfortunately, that may be the dagger that takes him out of this race for good, but the battle for the lead may happen in a couple of moments. Healy trying to reel in your race leader.
And what that did was that spread the back end of the field for the most part. So a lot of spread out already in the first 2 laps of the restart. Healy's going to dive to the bottom. He's going to get to the inside of your leader.
Here comes one of the champions in 4 Wide Cup history to the inside of the 12 not going to officially make this pass complete. Look at third on back. Here's AJ Green. That's Michael Newball, Lance Hill, all in a draft. Right behind, Tyler Murray, your league owner, trying to look for a win in what feels like forever. Here comes Hill, or rather Lance Hill, to the inside. AJ Green trying to make it 3.
He saw everybody check up going into turn 1. Hill was not having any of it. He wanted to keep his momentum all the way up, decided to go to the inside. It didn't work out. Look at the blocking there by the 64 on the 12 of Peel. He gets to the inside anyways, so Peel back to the bottom trying to retake the lead. If they stay side by side, that's going to definitely put the advantage in the hands of the 8, and they're going to stay side by side off the corner.
They're
racing the 8 sideways.
Racing aggressively for first. Could have allowed Murray to get into it, but Murray got loose out of turn 4, so he's going to lose significant ground. That'll shuffle Craig Lounslugger to the last step of the podium. Lance Hill will try to look again to the inside. Michael Newbraw, even with that call to stay out, he's still within the top 10 in P6, under fire from the 99 of Colin Forster. While they go side by side for third, it is clear the battle for the lead, coming at 22 laps remaining. Healy trying to hold in on what could be a win after a long time here in the 4Wide Racing Cup Series, but Peel trying to go for 2 straight in a row.
It's not over just yet. You can't exactly say it's over until it's over, and 22 laps is a long time at Michigan. That's 44 miles, and they pulled away from the rest of the field, so we don't know if long rest will be able to catch back up, because they're pretty decently far back. And for the top 2, you don't want to battle. You want to make sure you can get from these guys and not have to worry about them drafting up to you. So then in the last 5 or 10 laps, that's all you want without worrying about them catching up to you.
There's AJ Green to the inside of Craig Lounslugger. You're just riding on board with the Camry there. AJ Green, the defending series champion, is going to slide into third. He'll have teammate Lance Hill going to try and split Lounslugger here so these two can work together. But now I got to pose a question, just because the separation is so huge in this run as they're side by side for the lead. Back to turn 1. If you're running for the lead, do you want to be content running single file because you're afraid third on back is going to catch up, or is it the opposite way around? And if you're third on back, you want to work together to catch up to these two, as Healy almost lost the race car in the first 2 corners.
I think both of them can be true. I think if you're in the front, you want to try and be single file as much as you want to go out there and lead the race. That's definitely on the top of your mind. But if you're thinking long, you don't want to spend too much time battling, because you know if they work things out behind you like they seem to have been able to do for the most part, they're going to run you down because there's more cars back there. And you see Hill kind of pushing the 48 a little bit sideways. It's going to allow 13 to try and go to the bottom, but without that help, because he's against all these Stonks Motorsports cars, they're going to sit together and work together to try and catch back up to the leader. And I think they've gained just a little bit, Kenneth, if you can check that for me. I think they've gained about a 10th or 2 on your leaders. So if they keep this up, if they don't battle each other, they're going to be right behind there with less than 10 to go.
And last time by, they were significantly faster than both your leaders, as they're going to cross the line for 20 laps to go here from Michigan International Speedway. Gap is now down to 9/10 of a second. That's how much the draft can do for you, and it's going to do even more for these guys 3rd, 4th, and 5th, because all of them are teammates. Stonk Motorsports found each other on the racetrack together in the draft, and now this is where they make their money. If they stay together like this, if they stay in tandem, all 3 of them, even with the help from Lounslugger and company behind, this is their ticket to the race lead. But it's all about if they catch up, what they do after. If they all split, if they all still work together, is just a big question mark. They're now starting to split each other. Forster looks to the inside of Lance Hill. That is a pass for 4th, as Lawson Peel takes 18 laps to go for Michigan.
Still a good ways of this race left, and they're slowly catching up anyways to the top 2. So I don't think you can quite put it on just them. Yeah, I think you can still give a shot to Stonks Motorsports on catching up to those top 2. I think what they're trying to do is run different lines so they don't have to worry about dirty air and kind of protect also from behind. But visually right there, you saw the gap is closing ever so slightly, so you cannot rule out anybody besides the top 2 right now, because they're going to slowly start catching back up. It just depends how aggressive do they race from Forrester on back, because if Lounslugger tries to race Forrester, that could definitely hurt those 2 in the front, but they'll be able to work together to catch back up, because I think they're now in the draft window.
They definitely are. They're closing in. It is 0.6 of a second. Even now in this shot, you can see how much it's closed in. Before, you could only see the top two and then a slimmer of that front bumper of AJ Green, but now you're seeing the full car of him, and then Lance Hill, and then Colin Forster, and then a little bit of Craig Lounslager. So you're seeing this gap just absolutely eat itself up. And now for Healy and Peel, do you just try to pull out the big blocks, or do you just let this happen? And wait, actually no, Hill is going to get almost turned there out of turn 4. His car going to go sideways. He's going to save it in the grass, but that will break up the tandem that Stock Motorsports built up. AJ Green all by himself in third.
A fantastic save there by Lance Hill, but exactly that. It's going to break up that whole draft, but I think AJ Green's close enough to where he can catch up to those top two, because look at him, he's right there, he's just 0.3 behind.
I think that slingshot, at least a push from Lance Hill before he got turned, has helped out. Now he's within charging distance of Scott Healy. He can maybe work one-on-one. He's got time, coming to 15 laps to go. There is still a good amount of a window that AJ Green can use to get by Healy first, and then methodically get around your race leader Lawson Peel. The only thing is, Forster is now going to have to pretty much rely on Brandon Banks, Craig Lounslager, and league owner Tyler Murray for assistance in order to catch up to the top 3. So while AJ Green is reeling in these two, Forster is going to try to reel AJ Green in and the drivers in front, which means this race for the win is practically still wide open, coming to 14 laps to go.
And I think it still is, because I think they're starting to get close enough back there with the draft of the 48 right there that they can make something work. Because you see, that's about half a second or so that Colin Forster's behind AJ Green, and they're not too far behind him as well. So they're going to accordion up here inside of 10 laps to go. We're going to have a 7-car battle for the win.
There's an onboard look from Colin Forster, the Winbow machine. We mentioned it last time he raced it at Las Vegas. The colors of Michael Cozy Jr., driver running for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. This year, he's right now in the Rotor Pro qualifying iRacing Series, a winner of the Firecracker 400. He tries to look in for fourth, but now Healy has found a way to the inside of Lawson Peel. It's going to allow the Stocks Motorsports to get back into this. They're going to give support to Peel on the outside, and Healy is going to look lost here. He's got no help on the front straightaway.
Healy's getting lost on the bottom, but I think Forster and Green, what they're trying to do is get to the advantage. They want to get to the outside of the 12. At least break up those two from being around each other and maybe set the 12 up on an island, because if they can make this AJ Green and Colin Forster versus Lawson Peel, they have a pretty good chance. You see, he's not going to block low, but Stocks Motorsports is now second and third, so they might try and gang up on the 12.
He almost got him completely loose, almost turned the 12, diving into turn 3, just try to push him into the corner and get him unstable. Healy now falls to fourth, and that's going to reel in Brandon Banks and Craig Lounslager, so they could have something in this as well. 12 laps to go here from the virtual Michigan International Speedway. And also to mention, last time we were at a track 2 miles or larger, we saw a last lap pass for the win in 3 and 4. Mark Harris underneath Colin Forster, so this race is practically not over. We could still see a miracle dive to the inside, or maybe even a charge up top for the win of this race. Here comes Green underneath for the lead.
He's to the inside, and he knows he's going to have help from Forster to get by this 12. If he's able to stay there, you see off the corner, he's going to slide up, and he can't quite stay in the throttle. He's going to lose the nose of the race car. He's going to lose 2 spots at least going through the trial, and he's going to fall back to the hands of Brandon Banks. Scott Healy now is going to make the move for second as Banks goes for fourth.
He may even go for the lead if he can get there. He's got the nose underneath to the quarter panel. He'll find the way up in 1 and 2. Almost got into the Cobalt Chevrolet Camaro, but he's going to leave space up top. They're 3 wide, by the way, for position, fourth on back. That was Murray looking underneath Brandon Banks, who was underneath Craig Lounslager. They try to fight within themselves, but we are coming down to 10 laps to go from Brooklyn, Michigan. Does Forster or anybody else have anything left for your leader, Lawson Peel? And maybe another extra effect into this race for the win, Francisco. Lap traffic up in front.
You see that? At least 2 cars right up ahead, and they're going to catch up to them in the next 3 laps or so, give or take. And Lawson Peel is going to be the first one to catch up to them. And it's probably not the worst thing on the straightaway if you catch them, because that gives you a little bit draft and makes you less susceptible to attacks. But Forster right now, right on the back bumper of Peel going into turn 3, decides not to make a move. You see Scott Healy a little bit further back, almost getting nudged by the 48 of AJ Green. Peel trying to work the bottom, but right now in this position, if he's behind a lap car, that should help him with the draft just a little bit in kind of a defensive way against Forster.
Right on board there with your leader, Peel. You looked ahead for just a couple of moments. The 2 lap cars, one of them being Dustin Webb. He'll duck down low and just let everybody by. So an easy choice here for the Castro Chevrolet Camaro. It'll split up the guys around 4th on back, but it won't do much to affect the battle for the race lead. Daniel Michel, the next one in line. We saw him tag the outside wall and almost bring out a yellow in the final stint of this race, but he's okay. He stayed relatively clean, saved the race car, and unfortunately he's going to go what looks to be another lap down on the racetrack. Now I've got to pose a question here because we saw the phenomenon happen with AJ Green. Looked to the inside of Peel, dove into the corner, but just could not get the exit, and everybody on the outside decided to freight train. If you're Colin Forster, do you get scared? Do you get worried about the pass to the inside because you know the possible consequences if you get it wrong?
I think you have to go with whatever you feel is right in terms of going for the race win. I think Forster will go for the move that will leave him pleased knowing that he went for it, but he has to also see what he can use for his disposal. We're catching up to lap traffic 25 Ganu Mishan. Depending when and how they catch up to the 25, he can make a move, but also realize that AJ Green is still in the 4th position, and if he can kind of get Green to get past the 64, he can maybe try and make something work. So here goes the 25. He's going to duck down to the bottom side of the racetrack. He's going to give the top to the leaders. So we'll see what Forster's able to do. He's going to try and peak lower, but if he can kind of get his teammate back behind them, it could definitely work in favor for Snacks Motorsports.
I think AJ Green is also worried in the fact that if he does mess up the pass underneath Scott Healy, Brandon Banks is going to have no hesitation going for that pass. In fact, he's going for it right now for P4. He's going to nose ahead, but he's most likely not going to get it. They're almost going to make contact there out of turn 4. Craig Lounslugger is also in this mix as well. Looks like Tyler Murray has completely lost the draft, but AJ Green probably doesn't want to take too much of a risk trying to get around that 64 Camaro to get closer to his teammate in Forster, because if he messes that pass up down low, Banks and Lounslugger are going to be there for the taking, and then he's got no other choice but to stay in the draft and then try it all over again, this time with absolutely no drafting help. So everybody's going to say single file. We'll come out at 3 and 4 to get 5 laps to go, a total of 10 miles left from the virtual Michigan International Speedway. And also a reminder, last time we were at a track like this at Auto Club, Colin Forster was in the opposite situation. He was in the lead, commanding this race, where Mark Harris was just behind, and then Harris made that final dash in 3 and 4 to take away the win. Forster trying to be on the other end to get his first win of 2022.
We'll see if Forster learns from that Auto Club race and can apply that to try and win this Michigan race. Maybe losing that race is going to be what allows him to win this one. Sometimes you have to be in the losing end of a situation to be in the winning end.
Caution!
And forget all that. A late caution.
Caution comes out on the racetrack, and that will put us into a potential green-white checkered scenario. We're going to try to find who may have been involved in the crash. Looks like it may have been a single car incident, I believe. Saw some smoke coming out of turn 2.
I believe the car already got away, but it was in turn 2. We saw smoke in turn 2, so we'll have to go back and see who it was, because the car had already cleared the wreckage, or the site of the wreckage. So we'll see here if any of these guys had anything to do with it. Doesn't appear so. They already seem to be slow on the racetrack. The 14 tags the wall. Again, I don't think any of these cars were the problem cars. It looks as though it was a little bit further back than this. Interesting situation here. I'm wondering exactly, it may have been the 22. We'll see. Again, we're not exactly sure, but we do know it was in turn 2. We saw the smoke on the racetrack in turn 2, and it was behind the lead draft, so it was probably from that group further back there.
See, this might have been the cause of concern here for the caution. This is Bishop and Michael Newbraw getting together on the racetrack. That's what causes the yellow. The slight contact there, the 6th car, after making the call to stay out on the last caution, worked out well for him. He was P11, not in the worst place after he had the oldest tires and obviously less fuel than everybody else. But just right here as Bishop tries to move up to the rear bumper, just makes the slight contact, and that sends the 6 around. I don't think anybody else was collected because you see there Michael is able to pick the car back up. That was Lance Hill, who was swerving out of harm's way, just making sure he can put as much space as possible between himself and the car in trouble. But there's just a big move there that sets this race into a completely different motion. Caution flag is out. Everybody's on pit road. You said it there. Murray misses the stall, and here's the run off for the lead.
Lautenschlager is able to come away with the lead.
Lautenschlager.
I think he did 2 tires.
That was 9.9 seconds to Lawson Peel's 14.7. So a 2-tire call for the pole sitter tonight puts him in the lead of this race.
And I like that call, Kenneth. The reason I like that call in this situation is because we've seen what restarts do, and you have at least the fresh right sides. Because if the cautions come quick enough, it could keep you in the lead. We saw it last season in the ARCA race. Jake Rowe was able to make it work at Homestead. Stayed out. They burnt up all the green-white checkers, and he was able to win the race despite not coming down pit road at any time under those green-white checkers. So I like this call by Lautenschlager. 2 tires isn't exactly a terrible idea. I think it's something that he's got to try, because otherwise he was going to fall in line with the likes of Scott Healy and Lawson Peel. You see a damaged car right in front of him. We have a couple cars that are going to take the wave round here, so this will eventually cycle out to the 13 being the leader and the 12 being in second, and Colin Forster being in third. Healy, unfortunately, falling down to 5th. That's AJ Green that's going to be in the 4th spot. So that's your top 5 for this restart. Oh boy, what are your thoughts, Kenneth?
Well, this is going to be a chaotic restart. I mean, everybody's going to be on cold tires here for the most part. Lights are out on the iRacing official pace car, so this is going to be insane when we go back green. I don't believe this is much of a Hail Mary call for Lautenschlager as you may think in this scenario, because look at what Lance Hill was able to do on 2 tires earlier in this race. I think Lautenschlager took note of that, saw how well Hill was able to keep pace even under those 2 tires. Yes, it was a bit of a struggle for him, but he was still able to keep himself there. And when you only have about 2 laps left in this race, I think that's all the time you're going to need to keep those 2 tires afloat and stay at command of this race. So Lautenschlager probably took those notes away from Lance Hill when he did it earlier on tonight in experimentation. And Lautenschlager is going to try and use it to get to the race win. And that would be his first win this year if he could get it done. I think his first win since Iowa about two seasons ago in the Cup Series, since he's gone to victory lane in his Toyota. So we'll go green with only 2 laps left. Of course, green-white checker rules will stand as follows. We'll go green here, just like any normal restart. We'll try to get to the white flag. If the leader does not get to the white flag and a caution comes out before then, we'll rack them up and do it all over again. We have a couple attempts to finish this race under green, but if the leader does get to the white, then it's all just a race to the finish, no matter who gets there, no matter if they wreck. Doesn't matter what happens. Whoever crosses the line first of the timing loop will be the winner. Pace car makes its way down to pit road. First of 3 green-white checkered attempts underway here from Michigan. Lautenschlager in the race lead as he brings the field to turn 1.
Peel's clear for second. We'll see what he's able to do with it. If he's going to go to the bottom like he did on one of the last restarts, he actually is going to go to the top. He's going to go to the outside of Lautenschlager. They're going to be side by side for the top spot, and they're side by side for third as well.
Lautenschlager almost kept that middle open. A big crash there. That's Alishire around. Dave Bush into the inside wall. I believe we're going to be able to keep this race under green. Never mind. Caution flag will wave. We'll restart the race once more. Adam Alishire, after what's been a rough night overall, will send it to pit road under towing. Dave Bush, also the other car involved in this as well, after what was a solid run for him at the mid-portion of tonight's event. And they got close. Got close to the caution not coming out, but it does.
They were side by side for the lead, Kenneth. I wonder who got it.
We'll check here in just a moment. Let's look at the replay. I think by timing and scoring, Craig Lautenschlager is still your leader. Here's a look at the incident. That's Alishire there outside turn 2. And it just starts with the car right there, Francisco. Same issue that Ryan Seneker and Eric Schaefer had earlier tonight. The car just steps out. He catches it early enough, but just catches it too early, and the car overcorrects, heads into the outside wall, and that's really what brings the other guys into it as well.
And that's the first time we see it on corner exit. So I'm curious as to how that ended up being the case. Again, we've seen this for the most part be on corner entry, but that was the first time we really saw the car go dart to the right like that on corner exit. So I'm curious as to what may have led to that happening, but Dave Busch, nowhere to go for the likes of the 50 car, just an innocent bystander. And of course, Alshire has been through hell in this race. He's been involved in about 4 or 5 incidents, and I think he's just willing to get through the rest of this one and gotta get put out of his misery.
I mean, to be fair, that 14, very tough, very persistent throughout tonight's race, because usually after around the 2nd or 3rd incident, a lot of drivers would call it quits and just end their race. But the 14 has decided to keep his foot in it. Unfortunately, though, looks like he's got too much damage to continue. His night is over, although it was a very tough effort tonight. Very valiant one indeed for Adam Alshire, one of the former Championship 5 drivers from 1 season ago. So, as they were side by side going into 3, the caution did wave. Lounslugger had the nose ahead, so they scored Lounslugger still as your leader. Peel was almost there, but just not there to get the lead officially. You'll have to try it once more by the time we go back to green flag racing. And it won't change much, I think, throughout the rest of the top 5, top 10. It'll keep everybody still in this. But look at some of the names that we really haven't talked about all night long, starting to put themselves into this mix. Tyler Warner, again, hasn't gone to victory lane since Daytona a couple of seasons back. He's still hungry for his first win after a very, very long time. Scott Healy, one of the former champions in this series. It's been a minute since he's gone to victory lane. Brandon Banks went to the championship round at Atlanta a couple of months back in last season's affairs. He's now in 7th with a possibility to win. Lance Hill, he's shown strength all season long. He just needs a win to cap off what's been a very momentous first 5 races. Tyler Murray looking for a shining moment here in 9th. And CJ Winier, how about the driver who had his hood ripped off, or rather his front clip ripped off in the first laps of this race? He's now 10th.
Stories up and down this field, Kenneth, and a lot of it is due to the fact that you see right there, we don't have much of a field remaining in this race. It's been attrition filled. About 18 cars really still running in this one with a clean enough chance to finish it, let alone with a chance to win. So a lot of cars out of this one, and the contenders that we have left in this one is an interesting combination. Of course, we have Craig Rottensager, your pole sitter for the race. He won at Iowa a couple seasons back, you mentioned. So, and we know him as a short track prowess. Haven't really seen him be able to quite finish one off on the big tracks. He's come close before, just unable to get it done. Lawson Peel has been on fire the last couple of races. He's won 3 of the last 6 4-wide races when you go back to Atlanta at the end of last season. So he's definitely the driver on fire right now. AJ Green, your defending champion, in that 3rd spot. Colin Forrester, who was a very predominant driver in the Cup Series last season, a Championship 5 contender nonetheless in P4. And don't look now, but that 33 of Tyler Warner won that race at Daytona a couple seasons back. He's still there, and Scott Healy, your Season 2 champion, is just keeping his hopes alive in that 6th position.
So a lot of drivers still with a shot. This will be our 2nd attempt officially at a green-white checkered. Of course, I mentioned all the rules in the last caution, but if we exhaust all attempts, the last yellow comes out, we have a leader in front. Whoever scored us first will be the winner. But we're going to hope to end this race under green flag circumstance. Lounslugger at discretion here on the very inside lane. He'll do the same thing he did last restart. We're back under green with 2 laps to go from the Irish Hills of Michigan.
He immediately goes to the outside to try and defend against Peel, but Peel, I think, is going to try and go to the bottom, and he will. He's going to get there, and he's going to clear him before the exit of the corner. Forster's going to be side by side with them, so this is what Peel wants to see.
That was a slide job there out of turn 2. Crash there on the back straightaway. That was Scott Healy who got into Lance Hill. Caution flag will wave. We'll do another attempt at a green-white checkered. I mentioned a lot of drivers still in contention, but if you get into a mistake, you hit somebody, that's exactly what happens. Unfortunately, Scott Healy, Lance Hill collected in this recent scuffle out of turn 2. We'll see what happened.
I think somebody got loose or somebody was pushing tight, and they get into another driver, and it happened right there with Scott Healy. Right there. Yeah, it's what we saw on the last restart, but kind of was able to catch it, but unfortunately had other cars that were just happening to be there. So you see right there, a little wiggle, catches it, gets loose, and gets into the 38 and the 33. So doesn't smack the wall like the previous cars did, but after catching it, it starts to drift on him. And like we've talked about, it's just very hard to catch with these racing cars. So he may have kept it off the wall, but it was going to be very hard to keep that car from spinning and nowhere to go if you're these two.
Obviously, there's just bad timing, bad placement on the track too, because he got loose there around the exit. By the time he caught it, he had to turn more to avoid getting into the outside wall there on the back straightaway, so he had to keep it going left. And it's just that obviously, right after you get loose with these cars and you save it, you think you may be done saving the car, then it just snaps all over you on again when you're on the throttle, and that's exactly what happened there with the 64 of Healy. And of course, sends him down onto the track, gets into the 38 of Lance Hill, also gets into the 33 of Tyler Warner, and of course brings out this caution. Takes 3 heavy hitters really out of this race. Not really Tyler Warner. I think he's able to keep his position. For Hill and Healy, they lose it all, so they're on pit road trying to get their cars fixed. For Tyler Warner, even with some of the damage, I think he's just going to be happy with sticking it out on the racetrack. Not too much damage there on the front end, just a little bit there on the left front, but not enough to really affect him aerodynamically, and it probably won't affect him much in the draft anyway. So he'll stay there. He'll be in P6. But this is the biggest move of the race, Francisco, that we were looking for on the restart. Lawson Peel looking for the lead. He found it. This time wasn't caught at the wrong moment by the caution. He was in the lead significantly. He was in the lead convincingly. And now he's going to be commanding this restart. It's going to be an entirely different environment when he brings the field to green instead of the 13.
And Peel is really hoping that either he gets a launch and the caution comes out before anybody mounts a run on him, or he's able to pull away from everybody else and win the race. Either way, he is really hoping to win this race. That would make his 3rd on the season and 4th in the last 7. So that just goes to show Lawson Peel kind of has really been turning it on in the last couple of races, going back to the Atlanta Championship race at the end of December. So Lawson Peel, quietly, I might say, has really made a stride to winning a couple of races here in the last couple of events. And you mentioned earlier in the race, Scott Healy being, I believe you said 5th all-time in the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series wins list. I think Lawson Peel may tie him here real soon, so it won't be long before he starts working his way up if he keeps winning this way.
And Lawson Peel has been on a hot streak. Of course, if he gets this win tonight, it will be his 3rd of the season. It'll be his 2nd in a row. Las Vegas, of course, was his 2nd win of the season. Phoenix was his 1st. And Peel has just been absolutely insane since the time this season started. He was a rookie in the last campaign, mind you. He kind of just stormed the field and then took it by storm. Got the win at Richmond off of a 2-tire call. Very smart car near the green-white checkered territory in that race. Got the win there. Of course, you mentioned Francisco, the winner at Atlanta in the final race of the season. And then as soon as 2022 happened, he just picked up right where he left off, and he's been blazing ever since. And this season, at least through the first 5 races, it's looked like a very different 4-Wide Cup season, because last season we kind of harped on the fact that a lot of the veterans in the field were kind of struggling. A lot of the new drivers are finding their places in this series, winning races and being up front every single event. Now it's sort of a mix of the two. We're seeing a lot of the veterans do well, but we're seeing a lot of the newcomers still come into play. Peel being one of those. We still got a 2nd season trip for Green, Forrester, all the Sox Motorsports guys, and then veterans like Tyler Warner, like Tyler Murray, like CJ Munir, like Craig Lownslugger, all those guys looking for success. And we're ready for what could be the final restart here from the Michigan International Speedway. This time, it's Lawson Peel in control. 2 laps to go from Michigan.
And that was the earliest attempt that we've seen anybody go off in a restart. So he went really early, ensuring that he's able to get up to speed and really put the 13 in a precarious spot here in the turn 1 to try and help them get battling behind them. And indeed, it appears to be so, because the Lownslugger is still to the outside of Forster, so they're side by side for 2nd. And if they keep this up, it's going to allow Peel to get away.
No trouble out of turn 2. We will stay green. We'll find out if this race will end up official. Brandon Banks almost makes contact there with AJ Green, sliding up out of turn 4. Forster will look down low on Lownslugger, but Peel is clear for the white flag.
And you see right there, he's playing this tactically. He's trying to keep them side by side behind him. That's the best thing he could be doing. And they're still side by side behind Lawson Peel. So Peel is loving what he's seeing in his rearview mirror as they go through 1 and 2 for the final time. But the 13 is going to get sideways. He's actually going to spin to the inside of the field. No caution on the last lap. That's the 8 wrecking in the back. A couple of cars going around, but it is all for nothing. The 12 is out front of the field. Nobody's really able to mount a charge. Colin Forster does not have enough of a run. And Lawson Peel, Kenneth, he has put on a charge in the early portion of the season, already going to capture his 3rd win. He's going to win in the Brooklyn, Michigan racetrack. Lawson Peel wins.
3-time winner Lawson Peel to victory lane from Michigan International Speedway. Colin Forster, the bridesmaid, once more in 2nd. AJ Green makes it a Stocks Motorsports 2-3 here. He ends up 3rd. Brandon Banks 4th. Tyler Warner, a miraculous race all evening, and despite the damage from the recent yellow, he racks up the top 5. But for Lawson Peel, what a ride it's been this year from Daytona. Obviously, strong runs every single race. Took the win at Phoenix, and it just kept on piling on from there. Auto Club, great run up to the front. He was competing for the win, leading laps. Richmond doing well. Lawson Peel getting the win at Las Vegas, of course, 2 weeks ago. And now he's a winner once more. 2 in a row, the Cobalt Machine will get checkered flag number 3 on the year.
That's a really good job by the 12 of Field, Kenneth. And to think in the places he's won these 3 races, right? He won at Phoenix, the 1-mile racetrack. He won at Las Vegas, the 1.5 mile. And he's won here at the 2-mile at Michigan. So he's won at 3 different types of racetracks. Very impressive stuff out of Lawson Peel. And I don't think any of us really predicted this. And it's not anything negative against Lawson Peel. I just don't think that we probably anticipated him sort of jumping to that top driver of the season, because that's what he's been so far in season 4, Kenneth. He's definitely been the top driver. I think we probably anticipated someone like Colin Forster, or somebody from that Stocks Motorsports team, or somebody from the Murray Motorsports organization to step up. But it has been Lawson Peel and that 12 machine that has made a name for himself and been the driver of the season so far.
I don't know if I'm going to say it, but the Cobalt colors maybe giving him a help. Jimmy Johnson, successful in those colors. I remember him getting a win at Las Vegas a while back with the Cobalt scheme.
And here,
Jimmy Johnson not as successful at Michigan as he probably would have wanted to be, but nonetheless, Lawson Peel sharing his success. That was a burnout there with the 22, Eric Schaefer, giving his congratulations. Schaefer started strong, but unfortunately could not cap off what was a decent night overall for the Busch Chevrolet Camaro. But Lawson Peel parks it on a victory lane. That's where he'll be for the next while, as we'll take a look at your full field rundown. We'll see exactly where everybody finished. Of course, Lawson Peel takes win number 3 on the season. Colin Forster is going to have to wait another race more to go for a race win. Once again, he finishes 2nd by 1/10 of a second to the race winner. AJ Green, the teammate just behind, tried to give support near the end, but ends up finishing at the last step of the podium. We'll talk to all 3 of those drivers in just a little bit. Brandon Banks, a great run for the former Championship 5 competitor last season. He ends up 4th. Tyler Warner, former Daytona winner, could not get the win tonight, but I think should be very happy about this result tonight in the top 5. Daniel Michel, what a pickup for the California native. We saw him hitting the outside wall earlier tonight, went a lap down, and look at where he ended up at the end of this one. 6th place, CJ Monier was without a front clip earlier tonight to start. He is 7th to end. Christopher Bishop, same deal, struggled early on, but found the way near the end, kept his heart in it, and he's PA'd at the end of it all. Craig Launslugger, heartbreak for the 13, got loose out of turn 4 in the final laps. He is 9th. Eric Schaefer had a struggle early on in this race, but is able to muster a top 10.
Guy Healy, unfortunately, down in 11th after being involved in some of the miscues on the final lap. Cody Ivey with a strong recovery up to P12. He was 2 laps down at one point with an engine without a fuel. Almost 3 laps down, recovers to P12. Lance Hill, who was pretty fast in the middle portion of the race, finishes in 13th. Curtis Kelly, who showed signs in the middle portion as well, is down in 14th. Michael Newbraw was brought out one of those late yellows, unfortunately, down in 15th. Tyler Murray, who was in the top 5 for a good portion of the later portions of the race. Will finish in the 16th position. Tony Kivet 2 laps down in 17th. Dave Bush, who showed promise, was unfortunately out of the race and will finish in the 18th position. Adam Alshire, with 5 incidents on the night, will unfortunately not finish in tonight's race, but you got to give him credit for lasting that long, finishing 19th. And Dustin Webb in that 27 will finish in 20th position, 16 down.
Here's the rest of the field as they stand 21st through 28th. Brian Dixon ends up 38 laps down in that 21st position. Ryan Seneca, we saw him go around at the entrance of turn 1 and absolutely destroy the race car trying to save it. Unfortunately, he ends up 22nd. Austin Bloom got involved in an incident with the Sox Motorsports guys, but unlike them, they were able to continue. Austin Bloom, unfortunately, was not able to. 49 laps down for him at the end of it all. Travis Anderson, not a good race here tonight for Michigan overall. For the 84 machine, he is 24th. Brian M. Smith, despite a strong run to the front, ended up calling it quits near the middle of the race. He was 106 laps down. Kyle Benson got into unfortunate incidents after running very well to start. Looked like he was going to be a contender, no doubt, to win this race. It does not pan out that way. He is 112 laps down. Austin Reedy, we didn't really see his name all night long. I think struggled, maybe with some internet connection issues. Maybe something happened with the 11. We'll try and find that out. He is 27th. And then Cody Kinsey, I don't believe he started this race. Unfortunately, I don't believe he was able to make the grid. So he is 28th, the final driver in this field from Brooklyn, Michigan. It is our time, though, to step down to, what is this makeshift victory lane on the front straightaway here at the Michigan International Speedway, and bring in our race winner for the 3rd time and the 2nd time in a row this season. Lawson Peel into the 12 car, gets it done. Once again, Lawson, is this starting to feel hot? Because that's a streak you're building up, 2 in a row. How does it feel to get this one for Michigan tonight?
Man, it feels great. I love this track. It's one of my favorites. And, yeah, had a great race, dodged some incidents there, and was able to come out of here with a win. So super excited about that. And, yeah, glad to survive and come out on top tonight. So luck's been on my side in this one.
And obviously a strong run from start to finish. It looked like you were up at running for the lead, running for lap sled, running in 3rd, running in 2nd, running in 4th. You were kind of all over the place in the top 5. How was that in this dynamic of the race in Michigan? Because, of course, you guys went to Auto Club. Maybe some notes were taken there. But how much different was it this time around at this track as you guys surged upwards of 200 miles per hour going into turn 1?
It's a lot similar to Auto Club. The drafting is definitely just insanely strong, especially down that front stretch, just like at Auto Club. Yeah, definitely loose, really snappy loose on entry the first few laps on new tires. That seems to go away once you kind of wear the tires in a little bit. So you definitely saw a lot of guys having issues with that tonight. And yeah, myself included, I went down in there several times and got sideways. So yeah, you're just really on the edge on new tires, you know, going down into turn 1, but also turn 3 as well. You can get loose down there, and then you really start to get tight and develop a push in the center once those tires start coming in. So it's all about just kind of, you know, not letting yourself push out and hit the wall, and keep that tire, you know, managed. But yeah, was able to avoid some incidents early. Had a green flag run right there in the middle after I stayed out. Because I just we didn't have that many laps on the tires at that second caution, I believe it was, that we stayed out. They ended up going green for a while, came down under green flag stop, and then we had a caution, but was able to, you know, cycle back around to the lead lap. And yeah, I thought I had it in control there. Craig took 2 on that last caution, which I thought, you know, might do it for him. I mean, we saw Alex Bowman, you know, have that work for him at Vegas a couple of weeks back. And so I was kind of seeing that scenario play out in my mind there, but was fortunately able to get under him in 1 and 2 there after that second restart and clear him and stay out front from there.
And a lot of that had to do with selection on passes. We saw a lot of that tonight. Same deal at Auto Club, where it looked like the outside lane, once you got a couple of cars up there single file, it looked like no matter how hard you charged down low, you would still get beat off of the corner because everybody would just have all the momentum, have the draft, and have the pace to just freight train you. How tough was it to not only master that sequence of racing, but to also pick and choose your moments when you want it to go down versus when you want it to stay up high with everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're right on the money with that. It's tough to know what the right move is. Obviously, you know, we're lined up down that front stretch against the wall, and if you go down and you can't maintain alongside, you're going backwards. You're going to lose several spots. So you don't want to. I don't think you want to make a pass on the inside when the guy you're trying to pass, when you have a guy right behind you. You know, if you have a little bit of a gap behind you where you can fall back in, that's probably the optimal time. But yeah, you can't just jump out at any time, you know, like you used to, because you'll pay the price for it. So, you know, being in the right line, picking the right, you know, the right time to step out and make a pass, using the side draft to your advantage, and trying to come off of the corner clear, especially if you're trying to make a pass on the bottom. I mean, it's just paramount. So it's challenging. I mean, it's a learning curve for us all. Thankfully, I think, you know, everybody's getting the feel for this car and getting better and better the more we run with it. And it drives good once you get the tires worn in. You know, about 10 laps on them. I mean, it starts to drive pretty good, and you can get comfortable. But man, on new tires, it's twitchy loose, and it's unpredictable. No grip, and you're sliding and on the edge. It's scary and fun at the same time.
I think you've mastered what was a lot of drivers' fears about this car into 2022, and it looks like you've got just a good handle on how this is all panned out, and you've got 3 wins on the year, so no doubt. I think you've got the upper hand here on how this car handles and how competitive you can be with it. Lawson, of course, 3rd checkered flag of the year. I know we've talked about this before. Who are the people you got to thank for making this all happen?
Yeah, thanks to you for putting on the broadcast for us, Kenneth. Thanks to 4 Wide and the management and everybody that puts this show on for us. Thanks to my Drinking Bros teammates, Michael Newbrough, Brandon Banks, Eric Schaefer, Tony Kivett, Cody Kinsey, Joe Sanchez, and Jesse Schaefer didn't make it tonight. CJ Munier was here, Brian Dixon. So joy running with all these guys. And I'd like to thank PaulSetupShop.com and all the competitors out here for putting on a good race, and just enjoy racing with these good drivers. Thank you.
Just a good moment all around. You're the winner tonight. Of course, 2 of your teammates end up in the top 10. CJ Munier in 7th, Eric Schaefer in 10th. So that's going to be a good celebration for you guys on your camp. But on behalf of our team, Lawson, I want to congratulate you on your 3rd win of the season here tonight from the Michigan International Speedway. And, of course, looking forward to see how you and the rest of the field will handle Pocono. That's going to be a very interesting track in 1 week time.
Appreciate it, Kenneth.
That's Lawson Peel, who ends up in P2 at the end of it, or rather, first at the end of it all. We'll look to the driver who goes in P2 in just a moment. Lawson Peel, though, your winner after it all. What a great sequence of races it's been, at least for the first stint, for the driver of that number 12. 3rd win of the campaign, and going to be looking for even more for the rest of this season. We'll now talk to the driver who ends up P2 at the end of this race, and it will be once again the 99 of Colin Forster. He's cut up trackside with Francisco Bacchiao. Oh, I don't believe Francisco is here, so I'll pick things up. Colin, obviously not the result you wanted. I know it's been a couple of races where you've come home second, but give us your thoughts on what was a very hectic overall race, a strategy-filled one, and then obviously a green-white checkered-filled one here tonight for Michigan.
It was definitely a super fun race. These cars are pretty on edge, especially entry of the corner, and especially the draft package where everyone's sucking up to each other. But you got to lift a lot into the corners. So definitely a different challenge than especially the old cars where it's mainly wide open the whole time, basically a super speedway race, especially at this track with the draft is super strong. But it was really a lot of fun. Obviously disappointed with the 2nd place, but it was good points day overall, and it was just really enjoyable, like I said.
And a lot of the enjoyment, I think, maybe for you came out of the teamwork that you had with a lot of the Stonks Motorsports camp. Of course, I think we talked about it extensively, how efficient you guys work together. Of course, yourself, AJ Green, Lance Hill, there's a bunch of more drivers that I haven't mentioned just yet. But how was it to try and find them on the racetrack? Was it sort of like a super speedway where you kind of had to get into a certain placement with each other and then work together in the draft just because of how insane it was to get runs here at this track?
It's definitely weird. With the like I said, the lower downforce, but it still has a super drafty package, so it's kind of hard if you like. It's you don't really want to be the leader, especially. I mean, before the cautions came out there at the end, Lawson was probably just a sitting duck there at that point because we were all getting big runs on him, but none of us wanted to pass because we knew it was going to be too early by then. But just it was super weird. I wouldn't say trying to find teammates was necessarily the big thing. I think it was just trying to keep it on the outside of cars because that's where the whole pack was following, and you just train around the inside, especially if there was a single car down there. I mean, he would probably lose. If there was 10 cars on the outside and he was like fifth, he would lose like all those spots and cycle back to the back. So it's definitely a strange capabilities, but with this lower horsepower, or not lower horsepower, with the high horsepower, lower downforce, makes for some good entertaining racing. Definitely a bigger challenge than the previous gen cars, and just super fun.
And of course, a lot of fun overall here tonight. But 1 week from this race, we'll end up at from a normal D-shaped oval to a triangle-shaped oval in Pocono Raceway. What are your thoughts going into that race? How do you feel you're going to attack that very unique track that we have visited before, just never with these cars?
I'm not really quite sure, honestly. These cars are definitely a new challenge. Never ran them at Pocono before, so I'm sure I'll do some practice during the upcoming week to try and test how the cars are going to handle there. And I assume it's probably going to be similar with the draft package style, so it's probably going to be big runs down the straightaways, but a lot of lifting in the corners, and I think it should make for a really interesting race to see what happens.
Well, no doubt. It's going to be exciting 1 week from tonight, and we're going to be excited to see you out on the racetrack along with the field trying to learn all the nuances of this car at the Pocono Raceway in round number 7. But before we let you go, Colin, on this second place finish from Michigan, is there anybody you just want to thank for making this all happen?
Shout out to my dad for watching. Shout out to you guys for doing the broadcast. Great job like usual, I'm sure. Shout out to everyone on Stonks Motorsports. I know we didn't have great race. It's definitely some in-team controversy there towards the end. But we'll make it through, and we'll stick to next week. And shout out to everyone in the league for having me. These races are a ton of fun, and I look forward to them every Tuesday and Wednesday night.
We certainly appreciate the words, Colin. Probably not the best outing for me up in the broadcast booth tonight, but it was certainly a lot of fun to watch you guys out there putting all your 100% out there in the final laps. Colin, of course, on behalf of our team, want to congratulate you on this second place effort tonight from Brooklyn, Michigan. We'll see you, I think, further out east, around the same area, Pennsylvania. We'll head to the Long Pond in 1 week time. We hope to see you there.
All right, thank you, sir.
That's Colin Forster in the 99. Unfortunately, not the win. But like he said, good point stay coming out of Michigan, and no doubt these finishes do mean something. Of course, it's not the win, but the finishes do rack up. They do give you more points, and of course, at the halfway mark, we saw a lot of drivers get points in the top 5 as well. We'll move on to the driver who ends up in third, and it is the infamous driver of the Beef Machine, the 48 of AJ Green. Makes it a Stonks Motorsports 2-3 here tonight from the Michigan International Speedway. AJ, very interesting car, number 1. We talked about it, the Ricky Bobby car tonight. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but very strong run for you nonetheless with your teammate Colin Forster, Lance Hill, all those guys. What was it like behind the wheel in the final restart as everybody was scrambling to get around to the race lead?
Well, I was definitely hoping Craig would get a good start. The past restarts, the other two, the outside seemed to get a better jump because the inside lane would kind of lack, and so you'd get the draft. Definitely wasn't that case on the third green-white. The bottom went just as the top went, and so I was pretty much battling Brandon till the checkered, trying hopefully squeeze him tight, but also not him getting tight into me. So it all went well, and I was kind of hoping Colin would get to Lawson, but once Lawson kind of got 3/10 out there on the green, it was kind of his race to lose, and well, he didn't lose.
Well, Well, nonetheless, you were able to surge ahead for third in the final laps as everybody was going all over the place. I know a couple of cars got loose. Everybody was swerving around to make sure they can get to the finish. But I want to talk about getting loose. Want to talk about this car being on edge. I've talked to Lawson Peel, Colin Forster, and I'm sure yourself and a lot of other drivers can say the same. This car, very tough on cold tires. For you, how was it to manage with your driving style, the way this car is on the opening runs, and of course how it handles in the draft with turbulent air?
Well, my driving style, I'm not very good at saving tires. I've never really been good at it. So my goal this race was off throttle time, and that really helped settle the car into the corners. And I was a little late getting onto the gas a lot, and I couldn't really keep up with most guys late run. But as the race went on, I slowly figured it out more and more. But this car is definitely more challenging to drive than the Gen 6 car. The low downforce, more horsepower definitely gives it a whole new learning curve to everything and every track we go to.
A lot of drivers have said the same, but I feel like out of a majority of the drivers in this field, looks like that there are some spotlights as to who's gotten to handle this car the quickest. And for you, the Stocks Motorsports camps, it looks like you guys have definitely proven that you guys can adapt to a new car fairly quickly. And I know as a defending champion, that also must mean a lot of positive news that you guys can immediately come out of the gates with this new car and run for the win. I want to talk about rest of this season. Of course, we're only about 6 races in, so it's not immediately playoff time, but out of the rest of the schedule, before we do get to the playoffs, are there any tracks that stand out in your mind as potential places to go to victory lane for the second time this season?
I'm looking at the 1.5 miles mainly. You got Chicagoland, Atlanta, and Kansas. I'm really strong at New Hampshire. I don't know though about the next gen car, how I'll do there, but I definitely keep a watch out for the 1.5 miles in New Hampshire. I think that's where my best chance will be to get the second victory.
Of course, riding hot on the heels of that victory from Richmond a couple of weeks back, this third place finish going to help you on your route to the playoffs, going to give you some of that extra cushion. Before we let you go, AJ, on this third place finish here tonight from Michigan, is there anybody you just want to thank for making this run tonight possible?
Yeah, shout out to you guys for broadcasting. Shout out to Tyler for the league. Shout out to all the Stonks guys. We had some beef. Colin said something about it, and we'll get over it like we always do. But yeah, shout out to my mom for watching, and yeah.
Well, maybe there was a little bit of intimidation with the Ricky Bobby modified beef car. Who knows? But nonetheless, AJ, of course, on behalf of our team, again, want to congratulate you on tonight's podium finish here from Michigan, and of course, looking forward to seeing the beef car back in action 1 week from tonight at Pocono.
Thank you.
AJ Green to third place here at the end of tonight's 134 lapper, officially what is usual NIS length at the intermediate tracks. We ended up running that with the green-white checkered attempts that we ended up having here tonight from Michigan. We'll see if we can get Francisco Bacchiao back into the broadcast booth so we can get our final thoughts on what was a very crazy race from Michigan. But if he's not able to show up and bring his thoughts, I'll bring in a thought that he brought up a little bit earlier tonight on his behalf. The fact that this race was similar to last season. We had a lot of hectic racing in the beginning, a lot of cautions, a lot of opening jitters, a lot of opening crashes. But as soon as it filed through, we saw a lot of good strategy racing and just a lot of good cycle racing overall. And of course, near the end, just watching the full brawl coming to the start-finish line. And the driver who went to victory lane, a dominant one, Brian M. Smith, last season. We saw another dominant driver get to victory lane tonight, in the words of Lawson Peel in the 12. That Chevrolet Camaro getting to the win for the third time in this 2022 season. A lot of tracks to look forward to in the rest of the schedule. We'll bring it up on the forward center of your screen. You'll see exactly where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. Michigan, March 16th. That's where we are right now. 1 week from today, though, we'll head to March 23rd to the virtual Pocono Raceway. We talked a little bit about taking notes from Auto Club a little bit earlier in the campaign to Michigan. There are absolutely no notes you can take from any other track to apply it into Pocono Raceway. That's how unique that three-sided triangle is. And we'll be visiting that track in 1 week time. Lance Hill, one of the former winners there. We've seen a lot of great things happen at Pocono, so we'll see if we end up with a similar strategy race or maybe even something different in 1 week time. We got our first road course race of the season the week after we head to Road America, so we'll dip over to the National Park of Speed. We'll stay around the Northeast within the next at least 3 weeks or so. Then we'll head up to Loudon, New Hampshire. We'll head up to that 1 mile oval. It's been a while since we've been to that track. Nicholas Vizzuti, the recent winner there with the Gen 6 cars. Then we head to a fan favorite Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Then our second road course race of the season over at Circuit of the Americas. That will also feature a 1 week break in the middle. So every 5 races in this 4-wide Cup season, you'll see a 1 week break before we end up resuming action. So for the next couple of weeks, you'll see everything uninterrupted on Wednesday nights. And we'll have a lot of great racing for you as well. So a non-disappointing effort here tonight in Michigan. A great finale to what was a insane race from beginning to very end. But it is a similar sight in 2022 to end this one. Lawson Peel, your winner for the 3rd time in this season. So for Tyler Murray and everybody a part of the race council that makes all of these races happen, for putting everything together, on behalf of everybody who showed up here tonight, for Lawson Peel on getting this checkered flag at the end of a green-white checkered attempt, and on behalf of all of us at MaxSpeedTV, for my colleague in the booth, Francisco Bacalhau, my name is Ted Luna. Saying so long, good night from Michigan. Travel not too far away from here, and 1 week time to the Tricky Triangle.